would ask our village clerk, then I'll decide to please call the roll.
Trustee Pierce Slovan will be late today, correct? Okay.
She's en route.
Okay. Trustee Schechter is absent. Trustee Kay Levy. Here. Trustee Robinson.
Here.
Trustee Iverson.
Here.
Trustee L. Levy. Here. Mayor Tuck.
Here. So we have a quorum. Thank you very much. I will now turn it over to Nick Wyatt and Julie Benson, who are going to give us an overview of the budget.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and trustees, and good evening, everyone. I'm excited to kick off the 3 budget hearings tonight with a broad overview of the FY26 proposed budget. This process really starts in December when we distribute the budget materials to all our village departments and culminates in the 3 budget hearings tonight, Monday night, and Tuesday night. But there's a lot of work from all our village departments and our staff between then and now to get to and prepare the documents that are before you tonight. So I want to thank them for all their hard work during that time. I also want to thank our village manager, John Lockerbie, for his leadership and his direction during this process. So tonight, Finance Director Julian Prindy and I have a brief presentation that provides a broad overview of the budget. We will first begin by reviewing the village's strategic budget goals. We will then provide an overview of the village's revenue profile, followed by a summary of expenditures for FY26, and then a discussion of the village's long-range forecast. So to get started, our strategic budget goals. Each department develops their budgets with these 9 strategic goals in mind. And these 9 goals are categorized in 4 broad categories, those being service delivery, fiscal responsibility, public health and safety, and sustainability. These goals really encompass all that the village does to serve our residents, our businesses, our village staff, visitors, and other stakeholders of the community. So first, service delivery. These 3 overarching goals really pave a path toward excellent customer service by recruiting, training, and then ultimately retaining skilled and good village staff. All this while ensuring decision-making is equitable and inclusive from the top to the bottom. Fiscal responsibility is of the utmost importance in all that we do. These goals are critical to ensure that the village can weather any financial challenges we face while meeting the service needs and requirements of the community, and then also to achieving the village's board's short-term and long-term goals for the community. With public health and safety, it's critical that we protect and enhance the well-being of everyone in Skokie, and this is partially accomplished by maintaining accredited police, fire, health, and public works departments. We were one of the first communities in the nation to achieve this designation, and we are really proud to maintain those accreditations. And then lastly, sustainability and development. These goals focus on encouraging equitable and responsible redevelopment, while also focusing on the goals of the 2022 to 2030 Skokie Environmental Sustainability Plan. Again, I just want to emphasize that these goals really drive the budget process from start to finish. So as a new village board, as you review these goals, we are open and we encourage you to give us feedback. If there's something that should be revised or changed, we really would like to hear that feedback. With that, I will turn it over to Julian for an overview of the revenues for FY26.
Thank you, Dick. Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. I will be, as Nick explained, covering our revenue section of the budget. And we'll begin with our overall revenue breakdown and an explanation of the overall sources that fund our operations and other funds. We'll look at just a handful of specific revenue that are of special interest to us as primary fundings, like the sales tax, for example. We'll spend a few minutes talking about the fund balance, what it is, and how we utilize it in ensuring fiscal stewardship and financial stability. And then just a few minutes discussing the water rate and how we anticipate the impact for the coming year. The village's overall revenue base is fairly diverse, as you can see in the chart above. This chart represents total revenue sources for the coming year, estimated at over 166 million. This excludes any fund balance usage in specific funds, like we'll talk later, the water fund. The single largest source remains sales taxes, with almost 39 million in projected revenue and 23% of the total for fiscal 26. Service charges comes in next at 17% of the total and includes largely water fund revenue, ambulance service fees, wireless alarms, etc. Interest and leases at 15% includes earnings from invested reserves as well as pension fund assets, which go to fund those specific purposes. Property taxes represent only 9% of total revenue. As you are well aware, the village's property tax levy has remained flat since 1990. Income taxes moving down, 7% of total revenue. Income taxes are made available to us through the state of Illinois and through what they call the local government distributed fund. As established back in the 60s, the original plan was for 10% of total income taxes collected in the state from both individual and corporations to be shared with municipalities. The state, especially beginning in 2010 and on, has taken several actions that have chopped back that shared percentage. So we're now at just over 6%. This is another reminder of the impact of state action on our revenue and our funding sources. Other taxes in this pie chart at 4% includes hotels, transfer tax, telecom, amusement, packaged liquor, corporate replacement, use tax, etc. These are smaller revenue sources that go primarily to operations, but also to special purposes. The remaining revenue are considered minor overall and as such uncategorized. I do want to note that other revenue at 4% includes contributions for pensions and insurance from other funds and interfund transfers. Stopping for just a few minutes in discussing the general fund, which is our primary operating fund. As you may recall, we've discussed that the village operates under a fund accounting, which means that the general fund is essentially its own silo, and then the various other funding purposes are separated, including water as enterprise and TIFs and so on. For the general fund specifically, our projected revenue for the coming year is almost 74 million. As presented here, over 65% of the general fund is funded by sales, 39%, income at 15%, food and beverage tax at 7%, and interest earnings at 4%. This once again highlights the sensitivity of our operational funding to the broader economy or state action, as I mentioned. It also reinforces the necessity for strong reserves to weather any financial storms we may come up against. In this pie chart, service charges includes the various cost recovery charges we implement, like ambulance fees, the refuse fee, police details, and so on. With fiscal 26, revenue from other agencies in this chart includes a small amount of federally funded firefighter salaries and benefits for 3 current positions. That grant is scheduled to expire by the fiscal 26 year end. We'll discuss more of that later on. Noteworthy here is the relatively small portion of property taxes that go towards operations, just over 1 million. The majority of the 15.5 million in property taxes we collect goes towards the repayment of debt and pensions. Now I'll spend just a few minutes highlighting a handful of revenue sources, beginning of course with our most critical one. This is sales tax collections, combined both home rule and municipal. And just for clarity, the home rule sales tax is a portion of our total sales tax collections, and then the municipal is the other portion that the state shares with us. The state manages the collection of all of it. However, the village only imposes and controls the home rule, which is currently at 1.25%. This chart illustrates total sales taxes collected by month, beginning with January of 2019 and ending with December of 2024, which is the most recent month we have available. The green stacks represent the monthly collections, and the it is a blue line, I'm not sure it's blue. The line represents the 12-month trend of the revenue. And you can see both by the stacks and the line of how the revenue has performed over the years. That dip around 2020 represents the impact of the COVID pandemic, especially during the lockdowns when folks weren't spending money. Sales tax revenue has normalized since and now returned to what we consider to be trend growth. Beginning in January 2021, for those of you that are not aware, the state of Illinois changed the way sales taxes were applied to online purchases, allowing municipalities to capture their full rate, both of the local rate and the 1% state rate on any transaction online, especially through marketplace facilitators like the Amazon, eBay, Etsy, Mercari, and so on. With that change, we noticed a significant jump in revenue. Calendar year 2021 and 2022 respectively, we saw 37.8 and 17.8 year-over-year increases in the source. Now, since then, calendar years 23 and 24, we see much smaller numbers. So 23 was only 3.28% year-over-year, and 24 just 2.28%. Now, barring any significant impact from the trade policy shifts and discussions at the federal level, we would expect that sales taxes would stick to this 2% trend for the foreseeable future. Again, yes, sir.
Just a quick question. When you're going through these projections, I remember there was a situation with like rideshare, Uber, and Lyft. What's the deal? What's the status with that now?
So I'm trying to recall. So the village 2019, 2020 implemented at the time a rideshare transportation network company tax.
Right.
That was subsequently challenged by Uber. I believe the court decided that the structure of the tax as we had implemented was not appropriate. And Barb helped me out, they returned the issue to us or to the lower court. However, they decided that the tax as it was structured was not.
That's correct. And I believe we structured our tax similar to that of Chicago.
Correct. We essentially took the same model that Chicago and Evanston were using at the time, and they had been using it for several years.
Okay.
So the court action blanketly applied to everyone. We have since not gone back to push on that issue. Our understanding was that efforts were running in Springfield to create a statewide transportation network company tax that would eventually make its way down in this spot.
Okay.
I don't know what the status of that legislation is.
Okay. Thank you.
Moving on, what you see here is our monthly food and beverage tax collections from, again, January of 2019 through December of 24. This has been a very stable funding source for our operations, and 100% of it goes towards operations. For background, the village levies a 2% tax on prepared food and beverages made for immediate consumption, so essentially restaurants. Prior to the pandemic, this was a very stable source, increased at about 2% year over year. You can see again the impact of the pandemic there through 2020 as both stacks and average dips downward. But since this source has returned to normalcy and now produces about $5.2 million annually, again dedicated 100% operations, we don't anticipate any more than a trend 2% in this source for the foreseeable future.
Julian, any insights into what the spike in January 2024?
So that is actually December of 2023.
Okay.
It's not uncommon with December to be a happy celebratory month. You can see some prior Decembers are slightly higher.
Maybe that's
Something happens. Yeah,
post-pandemic holiday celebration.
yeah, that's true. Yeah. And this also reflects DoorDash and Grubhub deliveries as well. It's possible that, you know, folks stayed in and ordered a lot of DoorDash that month. We can break that down in detail.
I'm just curious.
Is there any way to project what we think the next year will be in terms of the taxes, because we have more restaurants and businesses opening up in the village?
So what we do is, you know, we have some history of how the tax was implemented back when it was implemented and how the uptake, you know, how long it took us to actually bring businesses on board. There is a few month lag from the moment a business opens to the time that they are fully compliant with us. So when it comes to projecting for the next year, we are not projecting any spikes in revenue because of the additional revenue, the additional locations. You know, it's one of those things where if it does come to fruition, then, you know, we're happy to record the
Found one.
one-time revenue.
Well, I would think a good example of that would be Poopaton, that old orchard, Poopaton,
Yes,
right, which Porter Bakery went away. And that space was not utilized for what, a couple of years ago. So, and there are other examples like that, I'm sure,
And they are a successful producer of food and beverage taxes today.
yes.
But at the time, we would not have known. So what we do is we just look at the history of it and project outward based on that, trustee. Okay, moving on, what you see here is hotel and motel taxes, perhaps the worst impacted revenue from the COVID-19 pandemic, as you can see, again, in the 2020, 2021. At its highest, the source produced about 2.3 million annually. At its worst during 2020, that revenue dipped down 77%. Now, as you can tell, it has certainly recovered from that low. We anticipate fiscal 25 current to end at about 1.9 million. And then for next year, we project about 2.1 million. So while not quite up to its max, certainly recovered significantly from the depths of the pandemic. And again, this source is primarily dedicated to operations, but we do also fund our Visitors Bureau through this and the Performing Arts Center. Of this source.
Does this include like Airbnb, Vrbo, stuff like that?
It is applied to Airbnbs and Vrbo's. However, we are now on a multi-year battle with both Airbnb and Vrbo's in order to apply this tax to the stays. We are still working through that and have engaged an outside company to assist us. But, Airbnbs and Vrbo's are very difficult to work with, you know.
So they just don't report. And we don't regulate.
I believe not currently, but there has been efforts in the past to look for immigration.
there has been talk about a short-term rental ordinance.
Yeah, because I know there are community concerns.
Do we have a sense of how much revenue we've lost given the current downtown hotel projects, since we lost businesses that were paying taxes, Annie's Pancake House, for example? Do we have a sense of like how that's shaking out, and do we have any recourse legally to recover some of those projected losses?
I guess to answer that directly, and I'll go around it, I don't know that I have a direct way to estimate. I can tell you overall, the hotel tax has not suffered, and the food and beverage tax, which would be the primary sources, have not suffered to a point where it's noticeable. You know, because businesses fluctuate in between, so overall, we have not felt that impact.
Okay.
As to the recourse,
I don't think there
That
would
would
be
be
any
a tough-
type of recourse, that would be a number that would. Yeah.
and it closed in, it was about 4 years ago.
Yeah, Annie's, I wouldn't say that there's a direct correlation between Annie's and the hotel. Annie's was looking to relocate and close before that.
I understand, but in conjunction with that project,
There's definitely lost opportunity costs, definitely. But how we.
okay. Gotcha, thank you.
Yes, just talking about, hotels. You've actually projected a decrease for the company. Why?
from the 2.3 million,
That's right, yeah.
so yeah, I don't believe we will hit maximum revenue in this coming fiscal 26. We're projecting about 2.1, which is a slight increase from what I think fiscal 25 will end at. But overall, I don't think we will be at maximum.
But according to these numbers, it says that the projected actual for 25 is 3.45 million.
Yeah, this budget was produced, well, I was missing 3 months of revenue.
Here we go.
So I apologize. The 1.9 number is the most recent one.
Can I ask one general question? And I think you already answered it for me. But most of the comparisons, instead of being against 25 actual, they're against 25 budget. And is that because 25 actual is still coming in?
That's the difficulty we face. Again, we produce the budget early enough to where we don't have a full picture of what the fiscal year will be, so we make assumptions. But like in the case of the hotel tax, for example, we were all.
Very good. That makes sense a lot. And in our particular example of revenue, it's also considered.
Intention.
Julie, remind me, what is our hotel tax at 9%?
7.5% on 4 physical hotels, and then a very little Airbnb and verbal returns, mostly as filed by owners, directly by owners.
Do you know how that compares to other communities?
I don't believe we're on the high range. I think we're about in the middle in the revenue memo. I believe I had some comparisons.
Okay, then that is I at 9.75. We're on par with Evanston at 7.5 and Northbrook is low at 5.5, so we're in the middle. Okay. Thank you.
And then one more revenue, because it is a very interesting one. In contrast to the other ones, this is the real estate transfer tax. And again, for context, the village imposes a $3 per 1,000 of transaction amount transfer tax on any real estate transaction. So, and it's been in place for decades. This again is January of 19 through December of 24. You do not, if you just look at this source again, you couldn't tell there was ever a pandemic. It didn't seem to have any impact at all. These tall spikes you see are usually one-off sales of very large properties. I think the very tall one is when the tech park actually changed hands in 2021, 2022. But as of, beginning of 22, we have seen a little cooling of this, maybe a return to a long-term normal for the village. We have been expecting this would go down. Again, prices have remained high. Rates really have not gone down. And this real estate market is sort of a direct, in direct correlation to those two things. So we're not anticipating any change. I think we're leaving fiscal 26 at about 1.2, 1.3 million in revenue. And that's about where we think it's gonna end up in 25. So
Julian, we also get this refinance transactions, right?
I do not
I
believe
think
so.
when people I think.
So when you do a refinance, there's no consideration. You're just refinancing what you already have, so we're not getting any.
So we don't.
No, not
It's
from
a
the
seller and a
buyer.
buyer typically.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll like to spend a couple of minutes to talk about our general fund balance. Again, as I mentioned, the general fund is our primary fund that funds all operations, police, fire, public works, all administration. This chart depicts our fund balance in blue stacks or reserves, projections based on the proposed budget, and then projections for revenue and expenditures for the next 10 years. Now, again, these figures do not take into account any service enhancements for unfunded mandates or new revenue sources. We maintain, as a village, we maintain a target policy of 25% of future year's budget to be available at the beginning of the year in order to address shortage of revenue or unforeseen emergency expenditures. Now, because we rely heavily on economically sensitive sources like sales and income tax and food and beverage, it's imperative to maintain healthy reserve. That is essentially the primary and the only real meaningful defensive weapon we have against revenue downturns or major expense changes. In the last 15 years, we have experienced not one major revenue event, but two, one of them being the Great Recession in 2008, 2009, and the other being the COVID-19 pandemic. Through that recession, our reserves dropped significantly below policy, and we're about in the low teens, 13-14%. And our current reserves at 51.7% projected for next year are only at this level because through the pandemic, we were the recipients of significant ARPA funds, federal aid dollars that were intended to essentially fund operations because of our revenue losses. In addition to that, as I mentioned, the 2021, 2022 sales tax infusion because of the legal changes, we were able to bank that essentially and build this healthy reserve. So we consider those technically one-time revenue sources. Now, the lessons we learned during those events kind of make us skittish. We appreciate having healthy reserves because, again, we don't know what's going to happen. And in this particular federal environment with trade shifts, the chances of another significant revenue event are fairly high. So some towns in our predicament maintain policies in the 40 to 50% range. We are not unique, but among few who have a 25% target by policy. For context, a 25% fund balance would fund our operations for about 3 to 4 months. Moving that to 50%, 51% will just extend that to just over 6 months or so. We project 51.7% by the end of fiscal 26, as you can see. However, when we plot out our revenue and expense future, we end up depleting that entire fund balance by fiscal 2034. And then in an academic exercise, we show you a negative fund balance for the very end there for fiscal 35. The village cannot operate in a deficit fund balance. Again, that means we're operating with negative monies. Way before we get to that point, staff would provide for you both recommendations on revenue and expenses to not get to that. But this is a plotting of our trajectory and how we would play out. And there is a little more discussion on this on the long range financial section further down.
I'd like to commend staff for making the decisions that you made to get this back up. I remember the Great Recession and I remember what those charts looked like, and it was trouble. So the fact that you banked what you could to get us to this, I think was very, very clean. So you and the previous boards deserve credit for that.
Could I ask along that historic line, what sort of things did you all do when the balance got down in the teens? What did you do to get it back up to where it is now? 30 is great, but 50 is wonderful. How did you do that?
Jim, what he said was so in the wake of the pandemic, the village received
No.
17, right, the COVID relief funds.
Back then. I meant the Great Recession.
Back then, okay,
So
go ahead.
Good. The expenditure that we have the most control over, or the most significant expenditure that we have, is maintaining our operations and thus personnel and salary and the expenses associated with personnel. So in December of 2008, a hiring freeze was put into place. And so any position that became vacant through attrition was frozen and analyzed if we could maintain services to the community in a safe way, but that position was frozen. And so still to this day, we have in excess of 37 positions that are frozen. And so we're saving in excess of $3 million annually because of those frozen positions. But that is the primary lever that we are able to exercise. When we lose revenue, we have to reduce our expenses.
Yeah.
And so in going forward from there, we tried to limit the growth of the general fund so we could build the savings back up.
Okay, thank you.
With that, I'll turn over to the water fund. So as I mentioned, the water fund is its own separate silo that administers both revenues and expenditures for all of our water operations, including our staffing, contracts, capital improvements, and both stormwater and sewer. So for fiscal 26, we project revenues at just over 20,208,000. And we are basing this revenue on a proposed rate increase of 14.9% from the prior year, which ends up being about 99 cents per 100 cubic feet. The minimum water bill, we bill quarterly at a minimum rate of 1,000 cubic feet. That would increase by $9.91 to $76.43. Even with this proposed rate increase, we are not collecting enough revenue for the water fund to be self-sustaining, essentially. So we would have to use some fund balance, some reserves from the water fund to the tune of about 250,000. And worthy of note is we are in the 20 point some million is just shy of 10 million in capital improvements, which includes almost 2 miles of main miles replaced, just under 200 lead lines replacement, significant investment in sewer lining and televising, and then some stormwater projects. I should note that even with this proposed rate increase, Skokie's rate remains extremely competitive amongst the area communities, which I will show through this chart. So what you see here is our 16 comparables and how they compare in current water rates, and where we had information how that water rate is going to increase in this coming fiscal year. The breakdown of the shading represents different components of rates. Several towns charge not only a water, but also a separate sewer, some fixed fees monthly. So in here, the darkest portion is water fees. Then the lighter is sewer. The lighter yet is fixed fees, and then the pattern fill represents specific stormwater charges, which are less common, but still out there. The village's rate are represented by the green stacks. Our current rate, the lowest in the area at 66.52. And then the proposed rate, it would be the second lowest at 76.43.
There's a forecasted further increases in the future, and it's really encouraging seeing how good we look on that chart. We are going to move off the chart a little bit. Do you foresee any sort of pushback from people on this?
It's difficult to say. So annually, we have increased our water rate annually to keep up with inflation and cost increases for labor and capital. We do not get an overwhelming number of complaints from residents. We do get some, but overall, folks are, understanding at some point that it is a direct service. The water fund operates at no profit. Again, we are operating as an enterprise, as a business, but we're not making a profit. The entire purpose of it is to fund capital and operations. And folks, I think, ultimately understand, not all of them are happy, but I think they understand the purpose of the rate.
And the magnitude of the capital investments that are necessary.
Exactly. And we'll spend more time on it during Public Works budget discussion, I think, Monday.
Yep.
Jim, I think it'll be interesting because a lot of our peer communities, not all of them, because some of them have newer infrastructure than we do, but a lot of them out there have the same issues that we do. They have aging infrastructure that they have to put money away for too. So Skokie's been in at or near the bottom for a long time.
Yes.
Right.
This chart has not changed very much. Okay. And with that, I'll turn it over to Nick for a discussion on expenditures.
Thank you, Julian. Now we'll look at the proposed expenditures for FY 26. The village's total overall proposed budget for FY 26 is a little more than $165 million. As highlighted in this chart, and as Julian kind of went through on the revenue side earlier, the total budget is made up of a number of smaller budgets known as funds. Each of these funds are independent and serve a specific function. The largest portion of the budget is, of course, the general fund. This really funds the majority of services that we provide to the community, from police, fire, public works, and services available within Village Hall. The pension fund is the next largest fund, and it comprises the 2 public safety pensions of police and fire, and then the non-public safety employee pensions, IMRF, the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund. The next largest fund is the water fund, and it funds the operations of our water systems, the reinvestment back into the water and sewer system, and the purchase of wholesale water from the city of Evanston. And as we discussed previously, and as detailed in the transmittal memo, there are a number of pressures that are facing the water fund this year and going forward. Those being the lead service line replacements. We have mandates from the state and federal government that said we have to remove all lead service lines by 2040. So that's going to be a significant cost going forward. The stormwater enhancements, there's a task force that identified a number of projects that will help with managing stormwater due to the increased rain events. There'll be more talk on that again at Monday night during the Public Works budget hearing. And then again, just replacing and adequately maintaining the aging infrastructure. The debt fund repays bonds on past large-scale capital projects. A few of these include the Yellow Line Station in downtown Skokie, the new police station, or it's not so new anymore, but about 15 years old, but we're still repaying some of that debt, and the parking garage across the street at Oakton and Floral. The tax increment financing or TIF fund includes the downtown science and technology TIF, the West Dempster Street TIF, and the Oakton and Niles TIF district. Importantly, the Economic Vitality Fund supports investments in the current business community and also attracting new businesses to the community. The total proposed general fund for FY26 is approximately $71.6 million. This is a 1.9% increase over the previous fiscal year. This chart provides a breakout of the general fund by department or by function. As you can see, the two public safety departments of fire and police comprise over 50% of the general fund expenditures. When you add public works to that, the three big core service departments, it's at over 70%. The green piece of the pie, group insurance at $10.9 million. That's health insurance costs for our village staff. And we'll go a bit into more detail about our personnel costs and how it relates to the general fund. So as you can see, 84%, the blue section in personnel costs and the red section with the health insurance, 84% is comprised of the general fund is comprised of salaries and benefits. So as John talked about earlier, due to this, the primary way we were able to save costs and reduce costs during challenging times is through hiring freeze. And we did this again during the recession of 2008 and more recently during the COVID-19 pandemic. In recent years, because of some increases in revenue, we've been able to strategically add back some positions to the budget. But as it stands today, we still have 39 fewer positions than we did in 2008 for an annual savings of $3.2 million. I would also like to note that a green section identified as other in the chart is allocated toward non-discretionary spending. These include annual contracts and supplies needed to operate the village on a day-to-day basis. So the $70 million general fund, there's limited discretionary funds available in any fiscal year. So this slide shows some of the cost increases to the general fund. The total increase is less than $1.4 million from the previous fiscal year, or 1.9%. Some of the major factors contributing to this increase are employee health insurance increases of $230,000, wage and longevity adjustments for less tenured staff, addressing important community issues like rat abatement. Again, strategically adding back some positions from the hiring freeze. We're adding back 1.5 positions this year. And then with the high inflationary environment that we've seen over the last couple of years, our automotive division has been especially hit hard with increases in automotive parts and services. And then we have a new recycling contract. And so our recycling contract is a larger increase this year. Without these increases, the proposed budget would have decreased from the previous fiscal year by about $664,000.
So would that have gone into the reserves? Like if those increases hadn't existed and And there was this, increase in, I mean, am I conflating two things where the budget and the expenditures are the same thing? Like,
So usually when we call that in the end of the year, when we tally everything up, we look at it, we have a surplus or deficit we saw in spending, and then to trustee Iverson's point, whether revenues outperformed the projections. And that surplus goes into maintaining the fund balance, but also it goes into capital costs, so it helps with those one-time costs. The village continues to invest in meeting the goals of the sustainability plan. In FY 26 alone, there are over $1.6 million in investments into sustainable operations. I think it's important to note that since the previous village board approved the sustainability plan in fall 2022, we've invested over $4.7 million in achieving those goals. Some of the notable sustainability initiatives in the proposed budget is replacing retired fleet vehicles with 8 electric and 7 hybrid vehicles. Again, I would like to note that over the last few years, we've really invested into our electric fleet, our hybrid fleet, and then the electric infrastructure at our facilities. So all of our facilities now have electric charging stations, and over 45% of our motor pool fleet are electric or hybrid. And that's projected to continue with this proposed budget with some electric vehicles and like additional charging stations.
I don't know if this is the right time to ask this question, but with the electric vehicles. But, words of no, I don't know that much about that, but my understanding is that their maintenance is dramatically less expensive and their longevity is dramatically longer. So are there savings that you can add up from these investments? It seems like it would be pretty substantial. We have 8 vehicles that aren't going to be retired in 12 years or less. That seems like a real call.
No, absolutely. Now, again, not only it saves in fuel, but also like, again, I noted earlier that our automotive division has been hit hard. It's been the last couple of years, it's been really hard to get vehicles and get them in a timely fashion. So they've been having to maintain vehicles longer than they normally would have. So that puts a strain on that division. So they've been very happy from what I hear from our public works director with the electric vehicles and the maintenance, the ease of maintenance of them.
Are we bound to that against the cost, the additional cost for the electricity?
So I believe in our franchise agreement, we get free electricity. The village facilities get free electricity.
That's a great.
is that the same for public electric charging stations?
Not for public electric, where we charge, we don't get that, just in our internal operation. Again, going off that, this year, we're going to continue to expand our electric vehicle infrastructure, not only internally, but on the public side with some more public charging stations. We haven't identified the exact location, but our public works department, they're trying to identify areas near multifamily areas where they may not have the opportunity to install their own charging station in their home. More to be said on that to come. The budget also continues our very popular compost drop-off program and some other composting initiatives. We're conducting energy assessments at 2 village facilities. In the previous fiscal year, we did the village hall and public works, and we're going to try to do these assessments on every facility over the coming few years. And then also we're going to continue to install large-scale swaths of native plantings on our public property, and then and there's some funds in there to also maintain the previous plantings that we've done. So this chart highlights the capital improvement budget. So the CIP, it represents the long-term, less routine investments in our physical assets. These can include the equipment the village staff need to do their jobs, facility improvements to one of our buildings, or major infrastructure projects throughout the community. The total CIP budget for FY 26, just under $27.7 million. And this chart segregates capital improvement by category, the largest being public improvements. That funds street resurfacing, sidewalk replacements, and other large-scale infrastructure projects. Equipment replacements, CIP budget, a few examples of items in that, police body cameras in the police department, fire protective gear in our fire department, and then the refuse and recycling cart replacements in public works. The utilities function highlighted in purple there, that's the water CIP, and it goes to reinvest funds into the system. And then the fleet CIP includes the routine replacement of police vehicles, fire vehicles, public works vehicles, and then other notable vehicles. Yeah, I think it's also important to note that over the course of the next year, we plan to get $32 million in state, county, and other grant funds to help help fund our CIP program. So the proposed FY26 budget continues the aggressive investment in our residential streets. This has been a top of mind and very important to our residents for a long time. And about a decade ago, we really ramped that up and started to truly invest into our streets. This year, we're putting $7.1 million in revenues to fund or to resurface 6 streets. So in our community, we have 2 main types of streets. We have asphalt. We're doing a little over 5 miles of asphalt streets. The cost per mile for an asphalt street is $1.2 million. And then we're doing almost a mile of concrete streets. And the cost per mile is $3 million, although the concrete streets have a much longer lifespan than the asphalt streets.
What's the price?
I'm not sure. I know this, we were happy when we opened the bids this spring, or our engineering director was, and last year, it wasn't a significant increase, but I know last year to the previous year, there was a big change.
I mean, how much we spent in the last year for resurfacing, it's in the 7 range, I don't know.
7.1 million. I think last year it was lower.
So
I think
it's an increase in what was spent.
It was, yeah. And then we are also through grant funds, we're resurfacing Howard Street from Crawford to McCormick. So there's actually more funds going into that. That $7.1 million is just village revenue going to those streets.
And obviously, it's a tricky question, but it's in my mind, it's relevant to it. What about our sidewalk? We've been trying to add more sidewalks, village, for safety purposes, so where are we with that project?
We continue to do that year over year. So we try to, where we can, install sidewalks in the gaps. We have a special fund that helps fund that. It's I think it's a small portion of building permits that fund sidewalk replacements. But again, that's been a challenge where the gaps are, a resident hasn't had a sidewalk in their front lawn ever. They don't. Yeah. But again, we're trying different. I know engineering is trying different techniques to get residents on board and get installing those sidewalks.
So we have grant money to resurface Howard between property and employment. What responsibility does the Amazon warehouse have towards and for infrastructure maintenance, given the vastly increased traffic in that exact spot?
So they don't have a direct responsibility, but they are one of our high sales tax generators in the community.
So the warehouse itself pays sales tax?
Yeah, Julie can speak a little bit about that, but the 2 Amazon warehouses do contribute a lot of sales tax to the community.
Julian, I would like to know more about that, if we have time.
Well, other than to say that many transactions that happen in the village are processed through that facility. So if someone orders and that item is at that location, that sales is processed there.
Gotcha.
Which means that all of that revenue comes to the village. And they are, if not the highest, one of the highest sales tax producers as an individual business in town.
Gotcha. So in the way that Old Orchard is a huge sales tax generator, Amazon warehouses are as well.
That is
Good to know. Thank you.
On these, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Angie.
Sure, go ahead.
On these resurfacing projects on the streets, especially on the main thoroughfare, like even on Howard, other than you bike, so that we can encourage people not to be driving it.
Where we can, we try to put in bike lanes. I believe Howard is unique. It has a multi-use trail outside of the street, which is nice alternative. I know I ride that stretch a lot, so. But where possible, engineering is putting in bike lanes. And yeah, going big picture with our streets, again, the village has done a great job at investing in our streets, but not all the streets in our community are the responsibility of the village. We have a number of state streets and county streets. In this map, it's a little bit hard to see, I apologize, but the red lines are state owned streets and the green lines are county streets. So again, although we've done an excellent job, a lot of the arterial streets in the community that are in poorer condition are the responsibility of the state and county. And we do push them and and work with them to invest in those streets, but it does take a lot longer than streets that we own. And we obviously have less control of those projects.
Is there a cycle from the state and or the county for how those streets get maintained and up for?
Sure. Again, yeah, no, similar to us, they do have a 5-year CIP. And there's, from my experience, there's been projects, and again, with the balancing the funding needs of the county and state, those projects sometimes get pushed out. So we have pushed them and try to get them to move those up. This slide illustrates a few of the notable building equipment, fleet and software investments in the CIP for FY26. Included in this CIP is the replacement of a fire engine in the fire department. A little bit less flashy, but still very important, is the upgrade of the village's enterprise resource planning or ERP system to the cloud, and then upgrading the village's phone system. In the upgrading the village's phone system in particular will save us close to $140,000 in annual phone cost going forward, and it will be a great improvement to our current system. In Public Works, the continuance of our annual refuse and recycling cart replacement, and just one example of one of the major pieces of equipment that we'll be replacing in Public Works is a street sweeper at $340,000. And then in our police department, we'll be replacing 6 police patrol cars and 1 animal control vehicle. I do want to note that we are still testing electric patrol vehicles, but these, as patrol vehicles operate on a 24-hour basis, they're a little bit harder to convert totally to electric, but we are testing that out. Yes, sir.
I know we talked about looking at electric units for garbage trucks. Are there options for electric like street sweepers and other operational equipment?
Yes, and our Public Works, they really spearheaded the transition to electric, and where we can, they go to national conferences, regional conference, where they're able to test out the equipment and drive them and see it. And that's how we were able to test a refuse truck and actually bring it to our community and try it out in our alleys. So they do go and test those out, and when reasonable and when they think it can fit our system, they do propose it. All of our lawn equipment is now electric. A lot of our vehicles.
I'm talking about even the street sweeper.
Again, I don't know offhand, but that's something I can probably our whole works director.
As we're upgrading the lids of the refuse containers and the materials themselves, are there more animal resistant materials that can be used? The current heavy plastic still gets chewed through.
Yeah.
So are there materials that have like metal thing or, fiberglass or something that's. And that's, yeah.
I know that's, one of our biggest service requests through our mobile app is the replacement of garbage and recycling lids. My garbage can at home gets chewed through. So I know that's something they look at, but we can revisit that and make sure we identify other options that may be less tolerant for chewing.
And just to add on to that a little bit, a few years ago, we needed a pretty large inventory. And so Public Works actually spearheaded bringing in coders from several different manufacturers and tested them in our alleys for a period of time to truly evaluate which ones are more resistant than others. And unfortunately, at that time, they concluded that unless we went to the national park model, that it, that is bear resistant. What they selected was the best that we could do at that time. And so I think it's a great question and we will review it again. But unfortunately, last time, it wasn't the result that any of us.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right, with that, I'll turn it over to Julian for a review of our long-range forecast.
Thanks, Nick. So at this point, we've covered our expectations on both revenue and expenditures for the coming year. With each budget plan, we spend some time evaluating our current financial situation and what we anticipate over the next 10 years on both revenue and expenses. Now, in the absence of a reliable crystal ball, we tend to look backwards. We look at what we've experienced historically. Then we take in any data points that we can gather on the broader economy, the federal government, what they're doing, what the state is doing and what they're planning, what our service level needs are, what the board priorities are, and so on. And we try to plot out the next 10 years as an exercise in prudency and in coming up with an idea of what we're looking at. Again, this is a look forward exercise. It's not budget, it is forecast. As mentioned, most revenue sources are now stabilized post-pandemic. It means that we're once again trend growth, not just for revenue, but also for expenditures. The expectation, as I mentioned earlier, is 2% for sales taxes, income, food and beverage, slightly less across other revenue sources. Again, assumes no tax rate increases, with the exception of, as you've seen in your materials, the local grocery tax, which in essence maintains our revenue level, does not add anything new. So overall growth with all of those things mentioned produces about 1.7 million. We project about 1.7 million annually, and that is equivalent to about 1.82% overall.
Property tax from the Henry and the Old Orchard.
It does not. So the frozen property tax levy means that we collect a fixed amount regardless of how property value increases in the village.
So what the cement plant is paying is what we would collect from all those at the end.
Right, so what happens is we tell the county we're collecting 15.5 million, and then the county turns around and splits that amongst all of our properties. When you have new properties, everybody else's share of the village's tax goes down.
Thank you.
On the expenditure side, we are anticipating, looking forward, and again, based on historic data, that our personnel costs, although manageable, are expected to come in at 1.7 million annually in increases. If not obvious, all new revenue essentially that we plan goes to fund our personnel expected costs. In addition to that, we experience annually health insurance increases. They are less predictable, but we have averaged them between 450 and 500 over the past several years. We do continue to invest in capital, and we continue to maintain the hiring freeze, at least as of this fiscal 26 budget of 39 positions. So with all of that in mind, we have taken all of these little levers and plotted them out into a chart. Spoiler alert, it does not look different than the fund balance chart. You can see several lines here, and just real briefly, the bright red line represents expenditures. The darker green line up top represents revenues. The lighter green in the middle represents our level of reserves or fund balance. And as you can see, we start with both with revenues being higher than expenditures for the first 2 fiscal years of this plan. So fiscal 26 and 27, we operate at a slight surplus. Beginning in fiscal 28, we start deficit spending, essentially eating into those reserves. And by fiscal 34, we completely deplete those reserves to produce, again, what I mentioned, an academic negative fund balance by the end of this chart. So we do this again, this is just if all our projections, assumptions materialize, there's absolutely nothing. State level, everything is steady status quo, this is what is likely to happen. That chart does not tell the story of the tools that management has in its control. How to address budgetary challenges, but this is here because we believe it's a worthy exercise to look forward and see what would happen if nothing was done and we maintain status quo.
And this is the general fund,
This is general and capital.
general and capital.
Yes.
Okay. And the main driver for our turning red is healthcare.
No, and I wouldn't say that. I would say it's a combination of all expenses and a structural deficit that exists between a structural imbalance between our revenue and expenses. You can see our revenue grows at 1.7 million and our expenses grow at 2.2, 2.3, 2.5 million. So that structural imbalance in our revenue sources as they exist today and our necessary funding methodology for expenses creates that structural imbalance. That's what you see here. A structural imbalance in funding for the upcoming 10 years. But that chart looks similar in every year we do that, but we come before you at each year where we present a budget and we give you real recommendations on what to do on both expenses and revenues.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you, Nick and Julie. And you.
Nick? Click over that.
We're good. Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
well, thank you so much. Very informative. Good discussion. Other questions? Okay. We will now switch to looking at various departments. And we're going to start with the Board of Trustees. So we will go to page 34. The detail is really on page 35. And if you're looking at the detail, it's on page 12. So this project, there is a $50,000 increase, and that's to fund a strategic plan process that staff issued a request for proposals about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And the responses are due tomorrow.
Yes. May 15th.
May 15th, so next week. So that'd be next Thursday. And we will take a look at the firms that proposed. We bumped up the budget a bit because when you do a strategic plan, there can be varied amounts of community engagement. And I'm in favor of a robust amount, and that's gonna add to the cost and add to the timeline as well. So we're hoping to actually kick off the strategic plan as early as July. I'd like us to be done by November or early December. So that's what that $50,000 is. Any questions?
Will there be a process for identifying the strategic firm that will work with
We'll look at their back. We're lucky, I believe, because there are a lot of really good ones in our area. Hopefully we'll get a good response, and we will take a look at what other towns they've worked with. We can take a look at the reports that they've written for those towns. We'll probably want to bring them in and interview them in advance. So John and I haven't talked that through, but that's what I envision, that will be strategic, rigorous and strategic in making that selection, because we want a firm We want to see what they've done for other communities, but we're not looking for a boilerplate approach. So,
Makes sense. And the comprehensive plan, how old is this?
well, the comprehensive plan is different. The comprehensive plan was drafted in 2005 initially.
I would say 2002.
2002. I remember going to Charette's, 2002, 2003, right? And what has been explained is that the comprehensive plan is being updated chapter by chapter instead of doing a wholesale review. It's being done incrementally.
So the comprehensive plan, how is the comprehensive plan, they're gonna function in parallel?
So the strategic plan is a little bit different. And then what a strategic plan will do is it will bring community voices, through surveys, through meetings where we will have guided questions, visioning sessions with the community. What are your top 3 priorities for the community? If money were, what's your big wild idea for Skokie? If there's one thing we could change about our community, what would be, again, I'm pulling those off the top of my head. The experts will help us shape what those questions should be. And we will look at how our residents and themes will emerge. And then we as a board will come together, we'll review the data. We may do other types of surveys as well, but we'll do our best to be very intentional about engaging stakeholders, especially folks who have not traditionally been involved. We need new voices to be part of this process. And then we as a board will come together, we will review the data that we receive. And then what we will do is say, okay, this is what we think our mission is. These are the values that we're hearing. These are the goals. And then we'll come up with an action plan. So what I believe that will do is by the end of this year, what I hope and I expect this process will do is give us a really good roadmap of what the community wants our work and our priorities to center on. So next year, when we're sitting here discussing the budget, we'll have some really exciting things to talk about because those priorities will have bubbled up from the community through the strategic planning process. And then that will show us where to direct the resources the very little bit of discretionary resources that we have.
Now, the comprehensive plan, I know that
Keith, you'll be next. I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, it's okay.
No.
Go ahead, listen. And
the
then Keith.
comprehensive plan being different than the strategic plan. As I'm reading through the comprehensive plan, the latest chapter is on housing. That's from last year. All the other chapters, most recent is from 2005. So almost all of the data is not applicable. So what is the timeline for updating that?
There's also a sustainability chapter that was added to the comprehensive plan more recently, and so sustainability and then housing are kind of the most recent. But, and then just to further distinguish between strategic planning and the comprehensive plan, there's a land use focus with the comprehensive plan, so it kind of is housed in community development. And I imagine that the strategic plan is going to touch community development and police and the vision of the community and all aspects of the community. And so a timeline on completing all of the chapters of the comprehensive plan is something that we can prepare. At this time, we don't have that. Each chapter that we have done has taken a period of time to involve experts and to really get into that topic and to be able to draft the vision for that chapter. And so there are communities that approach it in a comprehensive way, doing the whole plan at the same time. Yet it might not take into consideration the opportunity to have as many voices involved and really getting to focus in on each area. And so the data is a component that will provide a timeline on when that can be updated and to be sure that all of the future chapters are influenced by the role spec today.
Right.
Keith,
I was just gonna say, I've worked with other strategic agencies, so the cost is vast, obviously. So I think 50,000 would be, generous in as far as looking at companies, which is great. I was also thinking and hoping the board's thoughts about professional development. Which is something that I have not had the opportunity to do, or the other, as far as I know, we've never had that really in our budget. In order to be, as an educator, to be a good educator and to know what's better trends and, the impact. We go through professional development every year. And I think something like that would be beneficial for a board. It would have been beneficial for me as a new board member. Even not so neophyte anymore, still to understand and know trends and what other communities are doing. And just wanted to know the board's thoughts.
I'm really glad you brought that up. There are, there was something I had on my desk and I can't go because it's a busy day. June 14th, which is when our Juneteenth celebration is in the community. But the Northwest Municipal Conference is partnering with some other councils of government, and they're having a day-long symposium, I believe it's in Ohio, for new officials. So there are some, and I get it, because again, I'm not sure if there was cost for it. If there is, I'm guessing it was nominal. But there can be opportunities through the National League of Cities, the Illinois Municipal League, Council of Mayors. Aren't there some other? Right, so we have to, what we had, but a lot of that, some of it, again, because we're in Chicago, there are times when we can take advantage of things being local, but otherwise there might be travel involved.
Right.
So that's something that we could look at if it's the pleasure of the board to have those types of opportunities. We could take a look at that. John, did you?
No, there is some budget for training. And so we can review that and see if it syncs up with the expectations or if there's other training opportunities that we need to anticipate in the coming year and adjust that budget.
Start keeping an eye out for those.
Even some sustainability trends that other municipalities are doing that are great. Where you can visit and really understand off the hood and see what's going on. I think that'd be beneficial.
Right.
For as we continue to lead.
Good idea. Jim,
I certainly love the idea a lot. And I'd like to just throw out the fact that there's, staff in this building who have got massive amounts of experience, way in excess of anything that we'll have ever. And just, PDs that are just basic one staff here, helping us to understand the function of the public works or the particular aspects of finance or what have you. I will find that.
so you're talking about just even some in-house lunch, like, for lack of a better word, lunch and learns. Just
Yeah.
learning sessions.
Yes,
Interesting. Okay, yeah. That's a great idea.
and cheap.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's, very little cost. Anything else? Okay, good ideas. Liquor Control Commission. You're looking at the commish right here. That's what my husband has started calling me, the commish. Let me just go, we're looking at page 40. So, the liquor control function of the mayor's office is a very important one, and it's important for a number of reasons. It's important because the sale of liquor, there needs to be monitored carefully in our community for, all the reasons that we all know. Liquor is also important, though, to economic development, and that's why Monday night at our board meeting, we considered, there will be an ordinance.
Increase in licenses for the
About an
downtown.
increase in licenses. And what I thought was really interesting, last week we had a meeting to go over a few things, and I think it's a really good practice that the village has in place to keep a couple of liquor licenses in reserve so that when there are restaurants, both in the Old Orchard area, in other areas of the community that are interested, if there are licenses available, it can make that permitting and those approval processes more expedient. So we do take violations seriously. I've already had conversation with Avi Funk, who's one of our assistants, Corporation Counsel. Avi is really focused in on the liquor control and liquor functions of the mayor's office. And Avi and I have already had to have a couple of conversations about some businesses that need a little encouragement to stay in compliance with different things. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that.
Another encouragement, I like that.
Yes. Yes, and let them know we're serious about compliance. Lisa,
As recreational cannabis becomes more and more of a thing that is accessible to people in the community, where we stand in terms of consumption lounges, and would that also be controlled by you, like in the way that you were in the
that's a good question.
So the answer is no, there's nothing in the state. She is, as mayor, she is the local liquor control commissioner. I believe the cannabis dispensary licenses, they're all state regulated. With regard to individual lounges, we don't have any, and as far as I know, they're not. Go ahead.
Right, our ordinance prohibits lounges, but we do allow for 2 dispensaries, one on the north side of town, one on the south side of the town, and there's some specific parameters of where they can be located. And so currently we have 1 dispensary in town, and then 1 is available, so it's.
Is there any appetite to change those ordinances to have something that's, you know, like the cannabis version of a bar?
When the ordinance was established, it was specifically a dispensary, and so it prohibited that activity, but as.
And
It
that's
is-
from the state.
No,
No,
that's our local ordinance.
And we did it through the zoning ordinance, so there's specific regulations on how far it can be from a school, how far it can be from, well, I mean.
Houses of
Yeah,
worship, and
so-
you were off,
And
right?
we crafted it similarly to the local or to our liquor ordinance as well, based on state liquor law. So with regard to changing any of that, that would have to go through planning commission, I believe, as well, because it's in chapter 118.
So maybe a place to start, if there's interest from the board. If you'd like to hear kind of how our experience with the existing dispensary now that it's been open for a few years. And review the current regulations, and if there's interest in us reviewing that. But maybe we could start if the board is interested in, here's an update, here's our experience, here's the original ordinance, here's our experience, and then we can go from there, if that's of interest to the group.
Thank you for that offer, John. Are there any other towns locally that have the types of lounges that you're describing?
No, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't figure this out for our town and be, you know, a model community in this way for, you know, responsible cannabis consumption.
Mhm. Sure, and if there aren't any in our area, I'm sure in other parts of the country, even though they have different zoning codes and things. I'm sorry.
It's either Mundelein or Birmingham. Somewhere they have them.
So in Lake County,
Yeah.
Lake or McHenry,
Yeah.
yeah, and in other parts of the country, I'm guessing Colorado, California, maybe there are other parts of the country.
And it just seems like this is the way the nation is going. We're certainly not in the minority of states that have legal recreational cannabis, so figuring this out. Could be really helpful in terms of revenue generation and entertainment, you know, all of that stuff. So I think it's definitely worth something to think about. I don't need to hijack this meeting, but it seems like
Sure.
these are related issues.
Anyone else care to? Jim?
All right. I have, I think a predictable initial reaction to it, and, yet moving up more like it. And there is the revenue aspect. And it's also the human aspect, and businesses like that, we have lots of public transportation, which makes us a safe place to do it.
Allison?
Thank you, Mayor. I do like the revenue associated with it, but it's not something that I would favor in any shape or form. I think it's kind of the dispensaries, I don't think it's good, though, because it's recreationally, it was legal, that we should encourage that, to separate the vaping, it's, you know, to change the ordinance on that, and do,
Flavored, it's flavored, right?
it's just, I don't believe residents will be happy with it. I don't think that's the way that people are obviously used to it all. You know, we can be out and say with video gaming, et cetera. And I was, I would respect, obviously, if you go down the road.
I would say that perhaps your district and my district are wildly different on this topic.
Yeah, but yes, you're 1,000% correct. No, we would have, I speak for myself, voted on my district. I still like to work at all of Skokie. And I think for the most part, most of Skokie would still be after serving for 4 years and hearing what people are concerned about. I don't believe it's Skokie residents would be the.
I'd be,
Not that.
yeah, I'd be curious about public safety, what public safety would, but I don't think so.
I think that you look at dram laws and things like that, you know, and I think public transportation is an issue. I'm not sure that you need to necessarily, I think public safety is definitely part of this piece. But I think that looking at how they function in other countries, how they function in other cities, et cetera, is important.
I'm just gonna offer, this is something that we have before the board. We put it on, talk, allow the community to provide feedback and get a better understanding of what not just pockets of people, what the vast community want, and then use that to inform
I
how we
agree.
operate.
So John and I will talk about the timeline. I'm not thinking this is gonna be front burner. We've got some other things ahead of us, I think shorter term, but within the calendar year. A report and a discussion. In the meantime, maybe staff can take a look at some models.
For sure.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Anything else? If not, village clerk. And we're going to page 42.
Thank you. The clerk's office has worked diligently to meet the growing needs of our community while improving the quality of services we provide and maintain a strong presence in the community. It's been a significant year of progress and innovation. The clerk's department's budget remains flat for the upcoming fiscal year with a modest increase to accommodate the cost of living adjustment. The clerk's office provides essential services, including RTA, senior passes, temporary handicap placards, processing passport applications, and administrating the real estate taxes. Also election administration, voter registration and acceptance of certain nominating petitions, ballot certification, and a wide range of record keeping duties. Our objectives are centered around maintaining accurate legal records such as board of trustee minutes, ordinances, resolutions, proclamations, and agreements while delivering exceptional service. We respond to all inquiries in a professional and friendly manner, contributing to a positive experience for all our residents. We also collaborate closely with other departments to gather and share information, ensuring both staff and residents receive timely and effective support. Because part of our citizens assistance role, we get a wide range of questions and calls. So in a snapshot of our activity, we had 1,070 passport processed, 11,000 citizens assistance calls responded to, and these range in topics. 1,414 real estate transfer tax transactions, 70 temporary disability placards issued, 50 voter registration applications processed, and that's seems like a small number, but a lot of people prefer to register and vote online faster, and it's easier for people. 84 certified documents, 61 ordinances, 29 resolutions, 20 proclamations, 15 agreements, 400 notary requests, and 53 RTA senior pass applications. As many of you are aware, the clerk's office has seen an increased volume of activities this year. Despite that, we have been committed to ensuring all residents receive prompt, efficient service. One of the most notable accomplishments this past year, was the implementation of mobile events in the community. We have not had mobile events before, so bringing our services directly to residents in convenient locations has been huge positive. We were able to partner with several agencies, including Regional Transit Authority, expand our outreach among some of those mobile events were RTA and voter registration events. Active adult 65 and older events in conjunction with the Park District. Festival of Cultures, where we offered passport services and vaccine information with the Health and Human Services Department. National Night Out, connecting with residents through community engagement. Transit benefits events at the Weber Center. Backlot Bash, where we reached out to families and engaged the community. Senior living centers and outreach, providing key information to our seniors and senior residents. Business openings and resident ribbon cuttings, and partnering with local organizations to host voter registration drives. We did have an increase of passports due to the real ID requirements. People are moving towards getting their passport or passport cards because there's such a long wait for the real IDs. These events allow us to connect with residents in new ways, ensuring the vital services are accessible to everyone, including seniors, families, and underserved. There's innovations and efficiency and resident satisfaction. This year, we also introduced several changes to improve efficiency and satisfaction for our office. So we did online RTA applications. So after receiving feedback from residents who were a little frustrated, some of our seniors with the lengthy processing times or lost forms in the mail, RTA might not receive them, were some of the comments. And then we saved them on their $2 photo fee because we would charge them for their photos, so they don't have to pay that. We have implemented a new system to process those applications in-house and online. So that speeds up the process and also helps residents save the $2. The seniors, appreciate that $2 savings. And the frustration of mailing in the paperwork. Enhanced services for children. I know we're all adults and probably not a big deal, but when families come in for different services to the clerk's office, recognizing that we introduced stickers and coloring sheets for the kids, and we have 2 windows at the clerk's office. So that small change made it easier for parents and caregivers to conduct business while keeping their children entertained. So I serve the kids, they get to ring the bell, they come to me at one station and the parents are on the other side, doing their business. So that small entertainment piece for the kids is, much appreciated from our parents. Office space improvements, we made practical improvements to our office environment, rearranged some office furniture in the main area to create more functional, efficient space. No cost, just move some things around. The change improved workflow, reduced congestion in our office, and enhanced the overall experience for staff and residents that are visiting. I am multilingual, so I speak almost 5 languages. So that helps residents in different services. We have a lot of non-English speaking or, minimal English speaking. So that ensured that there were no language barriers and wouldn't hinder our their access to information or programs or resources, and includes inclusive and welcoming environment for all residents regarding their primary language. We're also working to automate transfer stamps, so working with IT to improve that efficiency. We also, some ongoing professional development and networking events, meeting up with other clerks, going to municipal clerks association meetings. We also prioritize that, and let's see. learned some, from some guest speakers, participated in discussions, shared best practices with other municipal clerks. This is just great developmentally for our operations, just to learn what other people are doing. But love your ideas on doing more, that would be great. So this improves our service delivery. We have 2 additional deputy registrars, an additional passport acceptance agent. This helps us handle the volume of the increased load sometimes we have, and including voter registration and passport processing. This year was unique in terms of election related duties, so it was my first time when I was appointed. In addition to accepting candidate filings, we faced, some challenges, but they were totally fine, including objections, a lottery, setup of several electoral board hearings. To ensure transparency and accessibility, we added valuable information to the website, including an election widget that allows residents to look up election-related information. Looking ahead, in the coming year, we're committed to continuing these efforts, growing our office in terms of mobile events, building on the successes of this year, and finding new ways to streamline processes and improve services. Our team, which is Sylvia and myself, our deputy clerk, remains focused on providing high quality service and responding to the needs of the community in an efficient and accessible.
You good? Any questions for our very busy clerk?
Questions?
Yeah.
Appreciate the fact that the added value that you speak, the multilingual. I think that's great. And also appreciate you trying to be more inclusive with students and families so that come into the windows. So I'm wondering if, first of all, I'm all about the PD. I just had a great year, all about the PD. And also want to be able to support the office with the outreach, the additional outreach and new outreach that she's doing with like outreach materials and like swag, to give the kids in the community. So I think that would be something good for her office as she's out in the homes and the community doing things. We just wanted to throw that out there and kick it to the board to see if we can maybe increase by $3,000 that would offer that opportunity for swag in the community.
I would definitely support that idea. Because your connection is a real asset. Your connection to the community and drawing people is a way that will draw people in. And, I learned just now a number of things that I didn't know I should do. And so with PD, if you would like to sit down for an hour, I know I learned a great deal, but I like the idea of drawing citizens into the room.
I support trustee, an idea as well, but also want to commend you because of the inroads you've made in getting out to the community. That you're, I think the services, remote, sign up, so what was it, the remote work that you did, that people were able to see in the community, sign up for voters registration. Also, what we've done for our seniors, I think that there's a element of our population that we don't do enough for, unfortunately, cannot get here, and I'm talking about those injecting that in private homes, but in the nursing homes, etc., but the senior care facilities, we get to very underserved population, and it's gotten out way too much. So anything that you do to go out, help them, talk to them, to allow them to sign up, or whatever they need, I think that is so important, and thank you for that. Thank you.
I'm also gonna take that, I gotta take what it said. And say, particularly about the language barrier, I think the clerk's office is a primary candidate for, the kinds of, nimble translation, real-time translation, so,
We do,
that.
yes, we do find that.
So, yeah. Okay,
Yes, we have it.
very good.
Do we have KPIs around, I know we gave a bunch of numbers, but do we have KPIs around what you're doing and you can pinpoint and say, these are the most used services and you continue with more of those mobile services around the most used services? I'm just thinking like Secretary of State and having those mobile spots for driver's license and things like that.
Some of this stuff I can't go on the road with, so I partner with like RTA and they'll come and set up. Like passports, I can't take those documents and secure them over. So I will bring applications and give them all the information and say, hey, call us to make an appointment. Because some of them don't know that they can come to my office. So yeah, a lot of it is just informational. And taking applications or information out there and then they can come back.
And of those mobile services, to Allison's point, you can go directly to the nursing homes with that stuff.
So sometimes, I mean, honestly, it depends on their need. Like some places will call me and say, hey, we need mail-in ballots, so I'll drop off a bunch. Or, hey, we need some information on RTA. Well, then I'll drop off that, or we'll partner and say, hey, what can we do? So I work with Park District and we did, they have the 65 and older events. And so I would call out bingo numbers and then also set up a table for the village and then have like our RTA services, passports, or like whatever the clerk's office has that would be a good fit. I'll put that information out there. Yeah.
Did you raise your hand for an intern for the summer? I know.
We had actually talked about that yesterday, internally, and we were not sure that would be such a good fit.
We have someone to go on mobile events with or something, but I don't know.
So the best, one way I could see us accommodating that in sort of an indirect way is getting our finance department another seasonal so that the staff in finance could help Manal more. We are looking at doing some more cross-training of staff throughout the building to be able to support our clerk's office during vacation times and times when she's busy. And I'm sure Nick can find a couple $3,000 in the budget for you to have swag.
I did find some stickers that say I love Skokie, so they're in a basket outside my office and they disappeared.
Yeah.
People love them.
Yeah.
Love them, from adults to kids.
Yeah.
It's sweet.
Love it.
Yeah.
Do we have a store?
Do we have an online store? Don't.
Skokie merchandise.
We have a merch.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah, we do have a merch.
Meredith and Patrick
Yeah.
talked about that.
Yeah.
So in terms of increasing the budget, is that something we?
He said Nick, I'm sure Nick can find
We can find
A couple,
some discretionary funds
$3,000
within the budget
for her,
that's already
for the
built into
clerk's
the budget.
office for swag.
Yeah.
I want to go on and say swag.
I'm saying it's a discretionary.
Swag.
Okay, thank you.
I'm so sorry, can we go back to the liquor one?
Yes, please. Go ahead. Go back.
Does the village do BYOB?
Yes.
Permit that?
We do,
Okay.
and with stringent guidelines. They have to have dram shop training. They're, at one point, it was on a per event basis. Again, I'm still learning some of the intricacies of the liquor code, but we do allow BYOB. Again, that's an important economic development tool.
That is a separate license we do.
Okay, right, so that's why they charge for a permit for that.
We do, and we maintain the rigorous standards that need to be upheld. Thank you. Good question, thanks. Okay, village manager's office, administration, we are looking at page 47.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. So tonight you're going to hear from Human Resources, Communications, and Community Engagement, as well as Information Technology. All of those divisions are part of the manager's office as part of the administration and general services budget. I'm going to highlight an item from the manager's office specific budget, which is related to the farmer's market. That expense up until the proposed budget was budgeted in another budget. And as we have expanded the farmers market and really rolled out the winter market in support of Main Street and economic vitality along that corridor, and also to embrace sustainability, that expense has been moved to the manager's office, and it has been increased in order to accommodate the winter market. The pilot was successful this winter, and so we're looking to the proposed budget to have that as an ongoing opportunity for the residents. And so if there's any questions about the manager's office budget, I'd be more than happy to take those. And if not, we can move on into HR.
Jen, I'd just like to say, I think it's great, the shift from the farmer's market budget into the manager's office. You know, it was, for decades, it was part of the Consumer Affairs Commission's budget. And the market in the last 5 years has just really grown to be, I mean, it's always been a wonderful community asset, but in the last 4 to 5 years, that's really, really expanded. And because of the importance of that market to our community, I'm excited to see the budget shift. And I know Nick is very engaged with Jennifer Engel, our market manager.
I appreciate you saying that, because Nick has provided the leadership over the last
Yeah.
4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And in partnership with Jennifer. So
Mhm.
it's, the community has responded, the vendors have responded, you know, it's a destination. So it's, it starts at the top, and there's a lot of people involved. I
Yeah,
appreciate
and this is our 50th year,
Yeah.
which is exciting. Yeah, 15th year, and there's more vendors than ever, I guess. They're filling up even the back lots. Yes, Keith.
That goes right into my question of thinking about alternative spaces to maybe consider it going to, you know, a larger place to accommodate more parking. Is that on top, or has that been considered?
I think that it seems like the community really likes it, the summer market in this spot. It also contributes to the economic development of the downtown. So after they go to the market, they may go to Alexander's for brunch or Libertad or another place. So it's.
One could argue it takes away from the local markets. I'm just, you know, just a thought.
Is there a different location that you have in mind that you think it could be, and maybe something we should consider?
I don't know.
Just another
Yeah,
location.
just another larger area.
I'm trying to think of a larger area we control. In one area, and Nick, jump in. Is this year's expansion, does it include the Village Green?
Yeah, it doesn't. We're gonna go, last year we expanded to behind Village Hall, and then we're going to even further to the next lot.
Right,
Behind.
Where the
Village Hall.
new charges.
But we have done the special events. A lot of the special events occur on the Village Green. There's a yoga in the morning. We've done a vintage thrift market a couple of years ago. So a lot of the special events go on the Village Green.
So there's still a little capacity around here.
There's still capacity around here. Again, the parking, when it, that's a good problem to have when there's not enough parking.
And I do like the winter market is in a different spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's good. But if you have an idea for a larger space that we
I'll tell you.
control.
Yeah, when we had that concert series this summer.
At the tech park?
Yeah,
Out of space.
Out of
Yeah, which is
space.
happening again this year.
right off the L bus line. I mean, that could be something to explore.
I do like people who said that they've come and they wanted to go to the market and they couldn't find parking in the slot. So I do like the idea that it's by downtown for their reason, but if we're losing people because of the lack of parking spaces and frustration, we consider that as well.
One of the key benefits of being here, specifically is bathroom space. We have for a number of years, we didn't open Village Hall for bathrooms, and that was a complaint we heard consistently in the last couple of years. We now allow patrons to go to the bathroom here, and that's been a big hit for parents with small kids. Sure, they're able to stay longer. So those kind of spaces, we'd also have to pay for. Those services.
Public, you know, the big park in the parking garage, because I feel like that's not so apparent. The open lot here, very apparent, you can see if there's parking or not and drive by. But I'm not sure that people think that with the that the covered lot is available.
It's good. Yeah, we can definitely have.
So,
already.
And that's what they probably should.
And the west,
Change it to
right, the
highlight
library
more.
lots.
It's a good idea.
Right, and I would say that if the winter market stays on Main Street, yes, parking is gonna be a massive issue, especially because Jennifer was talking about expanding it to both sides of the street and shutting down Main Street during market hours, which is a significant change. And their parking around Main Street is already an issue for that, so definitely something to consider and think about. Also, more
Good
space.
idea of it to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but think about that part. That part, yeah.
I would mention that alluded to the other businesses in downtown. And their benefits or lack of benefits from the farmers market. And there is a perception that there isn't enough benefit. My own personal feeling is that the farmers market has been so successful and it's taken years. I would be very, very nervous about tampering with that. That's my own personal feeling. But that said, if there's a way to somehow develop more benefit for the other businesses, I don't know what that would be. But if there was a way to do that, I think that would address a lot of concerns.
Well, it might not be a direct, like you go to the farmer's market and then you go to grab breakfast. But you go to the farmer's market and you certainly drive by all these businesses, those ideas are in your head. So at a time the farmer's market isn't happening and you wanna have breakfast, or you wanna get a pastry, or you wanna play pool or smoke a cigar, or whatever, like it's in your head that those things exist around downtown. It's you're doing that foot track. That's that's kind of the beauty of when you revitalize an area, is that all the foot traffic helps all the businesses. And it might not be a tit for tat exact trade-off, but it does create and maintain awareness, especially if you're going to the farmer's market every week, when you're seeing all these things anyway.
Can I just chime in and interrupt for a second? Just to say that we are planning to address some of that this summer, some of the thoughts that people coming to the farmer's market aren't visiting the downtown, and there are gonna be, you've seen those downtown Skokie maps that have been out. We've developed one that is specifically open on Sunday downtown Skokie, and it's gonna be a map of downtown Skokie that has all of the different businesses that are open, and they're gonna be handing that out at the farmers market to hopefully draw some of those people into the restaurants and the other businesses that are specifically open at the same time. That's great.
And maybe some additional outreach about the abundance of peripheral parking. Does the library, until noon, we can use the library lots?
We can.
Okay,
we can-
then there's the Skokie Theater lot. Chase lot. Okay. Okay. John, anything else?
No, that's all.
Okay.
That was sense.
Yes, human resources, page 49.
Good evening. The Human Resources Division is, by the way, my name is Deborah Stinson. The Human Resources Division is comprised of 3 individuals today who have responsibility for providing HR resources, assistance, and direction to the village employees. Our mission is to support a work environment which reflects the organization's commitment to fostering a workplace that enhances employee satisfaction, productivity, and overall organizational success. We prioritize employee well-being, professional development, and ethical practices to ensure a positive and productive workplace for all. We are responsible for the oversight of general employee processes within the village. Specifically, new HR policies and procedures are developed, existing policies are reviewed, and for applicability and modifications are made as required to ensure compliance with applicable federal, state, and county laws. We utilize online training to meet annual regulatory compliance requirements for our anti-harassment training, and I am so happy to report that we have 100% participation which is unheard of, so yay. The HR division also provides assistance to employees and supervisory personnel with regard to employee relations matters, disciplinary actions, as well as interpretation and administration of village HR policies. We initiate recruitment processes for all positions throughout the village, including promotional placements. We review and evaluate compensation and classification of positions as vacancies occur, and we recommend changes during the budget process. Last year, there were 38 employees hired in fiscal year 25-18 promotions, and we received 980 applications over the course of last year. We also, all of our employees completed the anti-harassment training, and Trailient is the provider that we utilize for that particular training. We typically seek to implement benefit offerings that make sense. That's one of the things that we want to do in terms of cost and genuine employee interest. And for fiscal year 26, we're looking to focus on identifying and securing appropriate training for our senior level leadership staff. That's one of our major goals. And along with code of conduct training for our inspectional services staff members. A cursory review of our employee makeup reflects 451 employees, of which 438 are full-time and 13 are part-time. We have 121 position titles. That's a lot. Our EEO stats reveal our employee population is 77% male, 23% female. And our race demographics reveal that we are 74% white, 12% Hispanic Latino, 7% Black, African American, 5% Asian, and 2% two or more races.
There were 38 people hired?
Yeah.
How does that work with the three? I'm confused.
Every position, you wanted to address that? Every position isn't frozen. All the positions aren't frozen. Our positions that are frozen are typically in public safety.
Okay.
Some of our public safety positions are frozen.
Okay.
Our other positions are not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the positions that have been frozen.
It's cumulative, so since December 2008, when positions have become vacant, then they've been evaluated to see if they can be frozen. And so as we sit here today, there's the 39 positions that are frozen. So when a position becomes vacant, we always do an assessment and decide, does it need to be filled? Should it be structured differently, or can it be frozen? In the times of significant financial constraints, recession, COVID, and so forth, the standard was much harder in order to get a position filled. But we have to have a minimum number of people to do certain services. And so we can't freeze every position. But it's at this point, we've accumulated through the years 39 frozen positions throughout the organization, Public Works, Village Hall, and then Police and Fire. Is it?
John, I have a question while Deborah's so here, but it really goes back to your report.
Okay.
I was looking at your report at number 22. Continue to work with the village's equity team to further the organization's commitment and engage the workforce. So really, to Deborah's last point, I remember when I retired, that committee was about 2 years old, 2 or 3 years old. So I'm curious if it's ongoing and.
There's been different phases of that group, and currently it's kind of on pause.
Okay.
And so it's had different leadership through the years. I was the original leader. We had a rotational leadership at one point. Police chief was the leader for a period of time. And so when there is productivity happening with that group, it's been operating. And then when it kind of hits a lull, we put it on pause, and currently it's on pause.
Thank you.
You have questions?
Sure.
So good to see you.
You too.
I enjoy hearing the reports and the updates every year. Thank you so much for the work that you do. Couple questions that I have. Appreciate the demographics of all the new hires. And I know I mention this every year, but it's great for community service, people to reflect the community. I'm wondering about pipeline programs, especially through Open. Career pathway opportunities are something that's significant now, very popular. And there's buy-in from colleges like Open, where we can really tap in and be intentional about diversifying our service employees. Respect them, much love, but I think it's more impactful when students and young people of color in the community see more people that reflect who they are. So I'm hoping 77% male and 74% white. I mean, that's again great, but this is an extremely diverse community. And I think it's just really, we have to be intentional about finding folks to kind of fill those gaps. So I'm wondering, has there been any exploration to connecting with pipeline programs or colleges or trade schools,
Yes.
from your point of view?
Yes, we certainly have. Our HR specialist
Yeah.
has reached out to Oakton with regard to sourcing for potential candidates for many of our positions. One of the things that we were looking to do too for police was to start early, actually go to the high schools. And the department has done that previously, but it's not actually happening today. So that's one of the things that we look to do, because there's a recruitment officer in the police department, Officer Gracia, who is phenomenal with regard to reaching out to potential candidates. And we could certainly, I used to do youth motivation. So I used to go into high schools and talk about careers and all of that sort of thing. And so I know that it works. And so that's one of the things that perhaps we could do that in the HR department if we had more staff. But
I think whatever, part of the responsibility for the board is to equip you with what you need
yeah,
to be able to do the mission and vision of the board.
yeah,
So, I think whatever you need to, ask, is certainly important to me. I don't want to speak on behalf of the
Yes.
board, to be able to have, departments that reflect the community, and relationships with our
yes,
community, schools that are
for the potential providers, yeah,
Yeah.
Deborah, I have a question.
yes.
I'm looking here and it said with the increase of little over 80, almost 89,000 is largely to converting a part-time position to a full-time position.
Yes,
So would that in and of itself help with this recruitment, this more intentional outreach and pipeline type
Yeah.
recruitment?
yes, that would,
Good.
yes. The adding the position to the, yeah,
Could you use an intern? Do you have space for an intern?
it would be nice to have an intern, but that's not what I need.
Yeah.
What we need in HR are people who do HR work, have the familiarity with it, have experience in it. We have an HR intern, if you will. I call him an HR assistant, but that's the position of these under the HR intern. And I don't know that we could effectively use that for what we need. I don't know that it meets our needs. So I would say no to that. But to an HR generalist, I'd say absolutely yes.
So in addition to this position,
Yeah.
you're saying one more.
No, I'm saying if we could have one more, it'd be wonderful, but
Even
this would help us
this will help.
tremendously. Yes, this
Yeah.
would help us tremendously because they'd be experienced in the HR field and it makes a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
This isn't
With
an
regard to
entry
deployment.
position, this salary level is a more experienced person.
Yeah.
Yes,
So that's great.
That's okay.
And has Alton been, who had a good relationship and has the outreach that you've made to partner with Alton for our recruitment efforts, has that been well received and productive?
I think it's been very positive. Everybody there is very, that we reach out to, or we typically reach out to when we get some information. You know, they send some collateral talking about what they're doing, and then we'll call them up and talk to them and see, you know, what's that all about? And then it helps to, I think, to continue that relationship, to establish it and to continue it. So that's something that we can certainly do. I've more than thought about it for our public safety positions.
Sure.
And any of the positions actually within the village employ. We could,
Yeah,
we could,
historically, Oakton has really tried to be a very good partner to us. We
Yes.
enjoy a good relationship with the college.
yeah, and we want to continue that.
And they value, you know, being here. We help each other out in a lot of ways, so we can expand those conversations.
Sure, absolutely.
I would even commit to helping to arrange, you know, that meeting. You know, with you.
And then maybe
Based on
pick
some,
you up on.
it's just, yeah, please.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do it. Other than that, I had just a couple of
Sure.
thoughts. I appreciate the anti-harassment training.
Yeah,
And I'm wondering too, as far as biases and harassment training for, is that just in one department? Is it
No,
for
it's
everybody?
village-wide. Everybody has to take that course.
It's great.
It's
There's no escaping.
There.
Make sure.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Which is good.
Especially because people are not physical at events where they, like I take those trainings and work and say, then people really feel that to come in and take those.
Yes, they
And
do.
we provide accommodation, so they actually would like on the homes person.
They can do, if it depends. If they're in a false or non-exempt position, we want them to do it at work. And if they're in an exempt position, they can do it at home if they want to. We're okay with that. But most of the people do it, I believe they do it at work. So, but they get it done, and that's what I'm very happy about.
Because I thought it was just the department.
And that's annual.
It's an annual,
It's an annual.
It's an annual training. And this, and for the upcoming year, we're gonna change it to October. Because we've been
Oh,
doing it
yeah.
in December, then it rolls
December.
over.
Yeah.
It's too late in the year, because people aren't thinking about it,
Yeah.
but they do it. So I'm gonna make life easier for them, is what we'd like to do, and we'll make October anti-harassment training month.
Do you have in your budget, and I apologize for not looking at every line item. In your recruitment efforts, like reels, you know, social media stuff. And I'm just thinking, I'm looking at collaboration and opportunities there too. And I've seen some of the recruitment efforts, you know, on social media. I'm just hoping, you know, maybe that's another avenue to really kind of spread the good news about all the amazing things about, you know, our village, and hopefully people want to be a part of it.
That's something that we can do. I know that our positions are posted by the communications department. So, but that's something that we could do, and actually perhaps develop relationship with some of the people who know other people, you know, to help get the word out. I was talking to Chief Barnes earlier today with regard to our police recruitment, and that's something that that we need to figure out. It's like there has to be something that we can do. So, and we'll certainly, I could certainly check that out and do that.
Let me just add to that a little bit. We do have about 140 organizations that represent different just different communities. And so we communicate especially our public safety job openings with that long list of groups. And we attempt to establish a relationship with them as well. And then within recent time, there have been 2 specific recruitment videos that we have posted on social media, one for entry-level police. And then one, we were having a really difficult time hiring a mechanic in public works. And so there was a video that was put together to recruit for that position. And so we're experimenting, you know, really trying to reach people that we think have an interest in the skill set that we're looking for. And so we continue to try to expand how we reach people.
You know, the best people to recruit are the people in the positions.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's, you know, again, going back to being intentional about creating spaces of belonging and people who really love it here and want to invite people to be here with them. You know, that's you know, that's the goal. That's the goal.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Communications and community engagement. Patrick and Meredith, page 50.
Goodie bags for you all.
Thanks, Eustace.
We are communications and engagement vision.
Okay, on swag, we got.
Patrick, thank you.
Speaking of swag.
There you go.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Sit down, Meredith. Little bitty bag. Oh, this is fun.
Oh, you know what, trustee shelters, we'll save this.
Yes, we will put. We have more of everything. If you want more of anything, we have more of everything. Shall we begin?
We gotta spread this one. No. Not yet.
Oh, you got good evening, Mayor and Village Clerk and Trustees, Manager Lockerby and Assistant Manager Wyatt. I'm Patrick Degnan, the Communications and Engagement Director, and with me is Meredith Joya, our Communications Manager. Tonight, we're very pleased to give you an overview of what our division accomplished over the last budget year, as well as give you a preview of what's to come this coming year. So, in fiscal year 2025, we had several focus areas. One of those was growing our audience. So last May, just a few weeks after this round of budget hearings, we were proud to launch the village's updated e-newsletter, The Scoop. Feels like we've been doing it forever, but it's only been a year. So Meredith and I developed a design that was inspired by popular media industry newsletters such as the New York Times, The Morning, the Daily Skim, and Axios AM. And we focused, and we continue to focus on providing highly visual, highly skimmable, engaging, and informative content. So we continued working with talented photo capture village services and events. We worked to write content in a way that's easy to read and scroll on your smartphone and scan for things you're interested in. And also worked hard to be among the first to communicate village board actions, news, and updates. So some data from the last year. Since launching the Scoop, we've seen our audience grow about 5,000 subscribers from 35,000 to 45,000 today, about a 14% increase. We had more than 1.5 million unique email opens last year, which is a record as far as I know. That compares to about 1 million for the 12 months prior, so a significant increase. Part of that is attributable to the water main incident that we had. We had a couple 100,000 email opens that weekend, so definitely had a lot of information to share then. Links in our emails received 108,000 unique clicks, which was up compared to 79,000 from the year before. That tells us that we're delivering content that people are interested in clicking on and learning more about. And we also saw our email open rate, which I was really happy to see continue to climb throughout the entire year. If you look at the monthly statistics, it goes up just a little bit every month. Over the course of the year was about 60%. And then just this past March, we had our highest open rate ever, which was a 65% open rate. That's translates into about 25,800 email addresses opening the Scoop when we send it out. So hitting a lot of people every week on Tuesday afternoons when we send out that email.
And we're attributing that to the
I think the design was part of it. I think we work really hard. Like that's one of the main focuses of every week is getting good pictures and getting good content and thinking about what people are interested in learning about, what's coming up. So we really try to stay on top of that and make it worth people's while to click on that email and open it. And sure enough, it'll be something that they're interested in. And if there's nothing, they can scan it quickly and catch us next week. Also, social media channels, we've seen nice growth on those channels throughout the last year. Our Village of Skokie Facebook audience grew 57% to a little over 3,000 followers. Our Instagram audience grew 40% to 3,600 followers.
And our Explore Skokie Facebook audience remained steady, growing a little bit more than 1% to about 7,100 followers. And our Explore Skokie Instagram grew 32% to about 2,500 followers. And I also wanted to note that Smart 911, which is our emergency notification system, grew by 58% over the last year, from about 5,500 opt-in subscribers to 8,800 today. And you can guess we added a significant number during the course of the water main incident. We had about 2,000 new subscribers during a few weeks afterwards. And that was a key way that we shared information during that incident.
I have a question about the smart 911 emergency. Is there an opportunity for people to opt out?
You can unsubscribe.
So everybody's in and they opt out if they don't want it. Go the opposite way. Is that possible, or people would have to kind of register?
So all landlines are automatically dumped in.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then you have to self-select cell phone and email, but we do not have a way to dump everybody's universally cell phone numbers or emails.
Is that real?
Because the US has a. Program, Canada has an opt out. The only reason I know is because dealt with it last year for the.
I know white page data is public, and I think Smart 911 actually imports that for us periodically. So those are that's not opt-in, those are just landline phones.
Right.
But then opt-in is when we're out there telling people, hey, sign up for Smart 911. Here's what we're gonna do. And then that's when people will take the opportunity to sign up with their email, with their cell phone, for text messages and things like that.
Yeah, I think everybody's cell phone wired out. That's it.
I don't believe so.
So it is the app that it can do something.
Which app?
The access,
Phone app?
to access Skokie.
Yes.
Yeah, I have some data.
We anticipated that question, so thank you for asking.
So throughout the year, we have a little over 3,300 total requests. That averages about 10 a day. And the most common types of requests we received to trustee Levy's point was new recycling and refuse cart or lids at 24%. Forestry or tree concern about 10%, or a property standards or maintenance request about 10%. So.
Not rats, huh?
All right, so, yeah, those three, the recycling carts, trees, and property complaints. I was mistaken, sorry, it's we have 10,000 every year. Service requests.
The rats.
Rats weren't in the top three. Yeah, do you know how where rats fell?
They weren't even in the top 5.
We're in the top five.
No.
Yeah. Reception versus reality.
Where were the rats last year on that 19? Where they had it?
I'm not sure.
No, in a similar location, the environmental, the health department collects rat control data through a different online form, so people typically are not using the app to report it, although they can, it's just not the most common, and I don't have that data on top. Right now.
But again, the Access Skokie app is a really important tool that when you're a marketing director and implemented. And it's really great because you press your service request and it takes you directly to the employee who handles that request. There's no real. So.
That doesn't fall under you. That's a separate.
It doesn't, we promote it,
Yeah.
but it's not something that we.
And we control it out of Alex actually oversees that and he makes sure he looks at the close time, the time it takes to close requests.
Okay.
And works with departments to make sure it's getting higher than we would like. He pushes in.
And maybe we see that as an operational efficiency, because we want to provide services 24/7. And so by providing that app, people can access us when it's convenient for them. And so we kind of control that from the manager's office, and we depend on communications to help market it. But the back end, people send in a rodent complaint or, a tree complaint, then we control that back end and make it very efficient for the person responsible for that issue to get it immediately, and so we're able to resolve the issue as quick as possible. So we just, from an organizational perspective, we just manage that operation.
The operation. Then have there been any use of it, at least that, any. Marketing pieces too, but it's go back to the.
No, they absolutely are part of the team to market it and promote it, and so they.
The app itself.
Like, are there opportunities to add account? You know me in this calendar, I'm sorry.
So tell me more for what you were thinking.
Yeah, I want to hear about your calendar, right?
So I've been all over this calendar thing, like better ways to, so I'll go to the email and I'll see something that I'm interested in attending an event or whatever. I'll click on it, but then I have to go through all these different steps to add it to my calendar, right? So if there's a simpler, more seamless, easier way for as Skokie residents to access, would it be part of the app?
I see. Or you can delete or subscribe to a calendar.
I think,
We're looking at how, if when we list events on our website, how can people easily just click on it so it gets into their calendar? We are pursuing that, since you suggested that, we're pursuing that. We had not yet thought about adding it to this app as a component. So that's an interesting idea as well.
Budgeting, is there a cost to managing the app or doing things with the app?
there is an annual cost for the app, but to add a calendar, the village's event calendar, that's something simple. And again, we try to have some of the popular icons or the popular functions that people go to our website for, easy links on the app. But that a calendar is something we can easily add to the app.
The IT guys are like, we got it.
Easily customizable, we can edit it.
And they have that.
All right, so back to communications. Another focus area we had this year was promoting Skokie as a place to live, work, and visit. So we continue to invite residents and visitors to explore Skokie, highlighting the village's dining, retail, entertainment, and cultural attractions, and supporting the Economic Vitality Division in marketing programs, events, and initiatives. Some of these have included launching an 8-week Explore Skokie campaign on CTA rail cars and digital ads at rail stations last summer, which then expanded to include new Explore Skokie banners along Dempster Street near the CTA station. Piloting a vacant storefront window covering program, beautifying and encouraging turnover at retail locations. Marketing and promoting events, including the Start Your Day in Skokie coffee mug campaign, holiday cookie walk, tasty treats on snowy streets, Tour to Skokie, Track the Torch, and Love Your Locals campaigns, and producing more than 20 short videos highlighting existing Skokie local businesses, events, and attractions.
Another major focus area over the last year was completing the redesign of a new village seal. And I'm very proud and also relieved to share that the design was approved by the village board in March after a very long and engaging process. The Village Seal Committee met more than a dozen times over the last year, conducted extensive community outreach at events and also through online surveys, worked with a local artist to develop a new design, and then worked to educate the public both on the design as well as on the process that led to that design. I also want to acknowledge our mayor for her work with the Human Relations Commission to review the previous village seal that set the stage for this process to design a new one. So.
And speaking of art, we were proud to play a key role in the creation and launch of the Storefront, which is the village's new arts and business incubator space located at 4051 Main Street. This exciting project, developed in collaboration with the Fine Arts Commission and Economic Vitality Division, has already started opening doors for local creatives and entrepreneurs. At the same time, we continue to support the strong programs that the Fine Arts Commission already had in place, but you'll hear all about those next week during the Fine Art Commission budget presentation.
Another focus area has been having a village presence at community events, engaging with residents and strategically promoting village services and initiatives. We had a presence at events including the Festival of Cultures, Independence Day, Backlot Bash, National Night Out, the Downtown Trick or Treat, as well as periodically at the Skokie Farmers Market. Our outreach included promoting the village clerk's offices, passport services, soliciting public input on the Village Seal project, providing water conservation tips, inviting residents to explore Skokie and more. Giveaways, see your goodie bag for details, included an Explore Skokie LED flashlight, SKO stickers, Skokie water bottles, and more. We also set up a selfie station at the Backlot Bash to provide people of all ages the opportunity to take a photo of themselves, share a selfie, and show their Skokie pride.
So you brought the real Skokie back.
On occasion.
For that one, yeah.
Is that a new one? Is that the old one you refurbished?
That's the old one that
That's
we
the old one.
refurbished, yeah.
It's been around.
That was fun.
Around for a long time. That wheel has been going around for a long time.
Yeah, that actually, we had a giant map in the back and the kids would spin the wheel, find out what continent they were going to. And then they would get an inflatable globe and then we put a sticker on their continent. We had to remind the kids that we weren't actually giving them trips to these continents. But they really got into it.
And they learned about passport service.
They, yeah.
And that was actually a really nice event because we did, it was super positive and people were really excited to learn that that was a service that Village offered.
That was some good swag.
Yes,
That was
that's good swag.
Credit to Meredith for coming up with that brainchild on short notice.
About 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Question. Is there a list of everything that you have planned for the year? So. I hate to volunteer off us, but like is there an opportunity for trustees to be like, okay, we're gonna do at least 2 of these a year and be out and.
We have plans for that. John and I have been talking about
Okay.
developing a calendar of opportunities
Yeah,
for trustees.
okay.
Yes, so more will be coming on that.
Great.
Yeah, and what event?
I'd like to know. When I get the newsletter, don't you get it? And I know what's going on, I just put it on and get my calendar. That's what I've been doing. July 10, so I'm available, not available. That's what I've been doing. My second question, is there an opportunity to add a Skokie scavenger hunt to our list of engagement?
Like all around the village kind of.
Versus just, Skokie, okay, right.
But yeah, I know Economic Vitality has done several events kind of in that vein, so it's certainly possible. We could also do, come up with a digital version of that too, where we're not actually physically there.
What were you envisioning as a scavenger hunt? But just so we understand kind of what your vision.
Scavenger hunt. So.
Did you go around with your phone and?
Man, yes.
Animals and.
So I've done like a city scavenger hunt where you had to like, you literally had to drive from Buckingham Fountain all the way to like Field Museum and then went to like Chinatown, like. That type of scavenger hunt and moved on like just the library. Scavenger hunt.
Okay.
Like here at Washington Library, you go to the different floors and find this book or whatever. Since it just has so many. Yeah.
There's some fun things. That's a great idea. There's some fun things that the Park District already offers. They offer a self-guided walking or biking tour
Yes.
of the history. And it's, if you've never done it, you can just download it from the Park District website and it's a lot of fun.
That one.
There's an actual horseshoe in the concrete, just a block from here. At what was, it's now an office space, but it was the original blacksmith shop in Skokie. And to commemorate it, one of the original horseshoes is in the concrete, the sidewalk, right outside of the. Yeah.
And we did, Meredith, you might want to talk about this, but I think the previous year we did a kind of a public art. We call it scavenger hunt, but it was kind of that type of thing.
We did, last year we did a public art campaign where, Jay Ryan of the Bird Machine had, provided a number of prints of the mural that's on the east side of Sketchbook. And, what we did on social media was we went around to a number of the different public art, murals and sculptures and did close-ups of the art and then had people identify what artwork it was or where it was. And if they were one of the first 10 to identify it, then they won one of the prints. And that was a very popular campaign. We did it over about 2 weeks and we were getting people knowledgeable about the vast amount of public art that we have in Skokie, but then also, had a little bit of fun. And then we also asked people, we had a few left over. So we asked people if they hadn't won, and were still interested in the print to go out and take a selfie with their favorite piece of public art and send that in, and then that entitled them to a print.
And also, just to promote, we have the North Thurston Performing Arts in partnership with the Economic Vitality Division is they're hosting the Cool in downtown Skokie this summer. So that'll be big. It's already very popular. Sold a lot of tickets.
Where are you going?
That was me, sorry.
All right, there we go. All right.
Julie.
So finally, this year, we began to work to enhance the village's website, organizing documents, adding keywords to improve search results, and simplified navigation menus. By working with the individual departments to review and remove outdated or unnecessary files, we reduced the number of documents housed on our website by 28%. This makes it easier for visitors to find accurate and up-to-date information. We also reduced the number of published pages without keywords by 23%, and we'll be working to further improve that number. And now we can proudly say that 100% of our published content pages have descriptions. And all of these small changes make a big difference in improving the website searchability. But we're not stopping there. Moving on to next year's goals, this upcoming fiscal year's goals. Starting this month, the village will begin working with our website vendor, Civic Plus, to complete a detailed review, reorganization, and a design refresh of the village website. So this project includes a review of website page content with all of the village departments, guided by insights from Google Analytics and some of our other data tools. It also includes an update of the site's navigation menus to improve visitor experience, and a design refresh to align the website with the village's brand. As part of this process, we'll also be working with Civic Plus to ensure that the site meets ADA accessibility standards. So this project begins this month, and we anticipate that we'll work on it throughout the summer and complete it early on in the fall. Yes, it was part of last year's budget. And so we're just getting it started. We started about a week ago. Yeah.
You guys are doing amazing work. I just want to make sure too, though, that language acquisition, folks, the diverse language that we have, people have that accessibility I know that Google translates, but anytime you upload like a PDF, those are not translatable.
Right.
So just knowing that, or just being mindful of folks who are trying to gain access of information, being able to add it.
Part of this process in reviewing the content is going to be making sure that the content is written in simple language.
Yeah.
What we've heard from some of our community partners, particularly those in the schools, is that families that are not native English speakers, a lot of times the parents rely on the children who are, in the schools and speaking English to translate for them. So we try and keep it written to a 6th to 8th grade language reading level, so that it makes it easier for that. And it also, when they are using that Google Translate, it makes the translations a little bit more correct, more seamless than, if you have a super long paragraph that's using a lot of jargon, then it doesn't necessarily translate accurately.
A lot of the important forms on the website, you and Alex have done a great job of making those more integrated into the website, interactive forms instead of just PDFs.
Absolutely.
And we'll have an opportunity with this website refresh. We're gonna be working with all the different departments to update their pages and also do some training. So it's a good opportunity to remind them of things like, don't have everything in PDF format.
That's right.
Things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Language.
And back to the language piece, I sort of forget, and I didn't have a chance to look today, but where the Google Translate function is, I'm picturing it bottom right. Top, right, is it, okay,
I think it's bottom right.
it's bottom right.
It
Yeah.
might be top right if you're on your phone.
It's bottom right.
It might depend on
So
where
we
you're.
could make sure that it's prominent,
Yeah.
that it's highlighted.
Yep, okay. And we have periodically done articles about that, but
I know.
also, you maybe can't read there, right? So as prominent as it can be on the website this week. And I know browsers also have the capability for people to translate things automatically. So there are tools out there, but you have to do it about.
Right, well, in the whole process of updating the website, you're gonna have UX professionals doing all of this.
That's actually my entire summer is pretty much set aside for the website project, because we'll be meeting with the departments, but then I'm gonna be touching each page to make sure that it is following best practices and, accessibility standards and all. Right. Okay.
Another focus area this coming year will be enhancing the village's visual identity. So with the adoption of a new village seal several months ago, we are going to be launching a process to design a new village flag, soliciting design concepts from the public. We're excited to kick that off next week. next weekend at the Festival of Cultures, where we're gonna ask community members to pick up a blank a blank white flag and then decorate and submit their own design. There'll also be an online form and other ways you can submit your design. So that'll be coming very soon. We expect that will take spring, summer, and then early fall. We hope to start narrowing it down to some finalists, working with local artists. We'll also be working with representatives of Skokie Police and Fire to design new public safety uniform patches, and also undertaking a project to design new entryway signage for the village.
Supporting economic vitality is another goal. We'll be continue to work with economic vitality to attract residents, businesses, and visitors to Skokie and support strategic economic development. So this includes continuing to produce original videos and content highlighting local small businesses, producing marketing materials to promote their events and initiatives, and communicating an economic vitality strategies and opportunities. We'll also continue to work to bolster Skokie's reputation as a destination for the arts, supporting the Fine Arts Commission in implementing their initiatives and bringing new events, programs, and artists to the storefront. I've had a number of meetings with interested people that are looking to come in and bring in workshops and do different events, and everybody's really excited about the opportunity, and also really impressed that Skokie supports the arts as much as they do.
And finally, we're going to continue focusing on reaching residents where they are. That includes at home through our quarterly New Skokie print newsletter, on their devices through the Scoop, social media, and our village website, through the media by sharing information with our local journalists and media outlets, on the move using our village message boards, banners, flyers, and signage, with our local community partners to amplify our messages and connect with people we may not otherwise reach, and also at community events with fun and useful information and giveaways highlighting village services. So we look forward to the year ahead and welcome any additional questions or feedback you might have.
Are there any opportunities to use like user-generated content?
Yeah, we did actually I think Trustee Schechter had suggested doing a little more community engagement in the Scoop. So we did a couple weeks ago, send us your spring photos plug. I have not reviewed to see if we've got any. So doing things like that, we will try to do more of that. Little less work for us, a little more fun for the community to get involved.
And see themselves like and they do.
Yeah, and we're actually working with the farmers market, with Jennifer at the farmers market on the 50th anniversary celebration. And one of the things that we've started is the Fine Arts Commission has done a photo exhibit throughout the year, Skokie Through the Lens, and this year we're relaunching it, but it's going to be specifically about the farmers market. So we're asking people to submit their photos from years past, and then it's going to continue through the summer and ask people to submit their photos from this year. And then towards the end of the summer, we're going to do a photo retrospective type exhibit in August, I think, at the farmers market.
I have a comment about the work with economic vitality, and this comment really, I think, is more, I'll address it with them as well, but you know, we have this new merchants group, the Downtown Skokie Merchants Collaborative. And I just think it's very important that any work that's done for aesthetics, they have to be at the table. So.
And they have been, I've been before, it was really fully formed, and economic vitality was leading those downtown Skokie meetings. I was in attendance at all those meetings, and any of the designs that were for those downtown events that I did was through them.
There was some stakeholder meetings.
Yes, absolutely.
But thank you, great work.
Thank you.
Good job, Patty.
Thanks.
Okay, IT, Tomas, page 51.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees, Village Manager, Assistant Village Manager, and Village Clerk. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor to present to you accomplishments and future initiatives of Information Technology Department. Technology continues to play a vital role in enhancing our organizational efficiency, safeguarding information, and enabling smooth communication both internally and externally. The IT department is committed to advancing our use of technology in a way that fosters innovation, supplements village operations, and elevates the guest and user experiences to support the village staff in providing the best possible service to Skokie community. Over the past year, we have made significant strides in building on a village technological foundation, strengthening our security and developing methods to improve operational efficiency. Please allow me to highlight a few key achievements. We successfully upgraded and deployed state-of-the-art firewall system, significantly improving performance and cybersecurity of those devices. Those advancements protect our network from ever-evolving cyber threats to prevent interruptions to our operations. As part of our improved security measures, we also implemented two-factor authentication across all the systems and are conducting network penetrations in collaboration with the Federal Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency called CISA, basically to fortify all our defenses against any cyber attacks. We modernized our server infrastructure by upgrading the legacy hardware, providing more efficient, cost-effective, and sustainable solutions. Also, information technology has enhanced the wireless network by upgrading Wi-Fi access points to the latest systems. This significantly improved the network performance, enabled seamless roaming between multiple buildings, and provided guests with reliable internet access. IT is also nearing completion of Windows 11 operating system upgrades, which will ensure compatibility and system performance. We also made a significant progress in digital transformation. As part of this effort, we have moved to cloud-based backups, enhanced email protection and encryption. And additionally, we moved mobile data management and email archiving the cloud-hosted solution as well. We have made upgrades to critical software used by the Risk Management Office and Public Safety Dispatch Center, further improving daily operations. To enable innovative workforce, IT scheduled and hosted a series of refresher courses for Microsoft Power Apps and employee cybersecurity awareness training classes. Information technology is a customized application using modern web programming languages, which have enabled us to streamline and increase villages' productivity. Information technology provides 24/7 operational support to police, fire, and communication departments, has contributed to organizational strategic goals, providing valuable insights and recommendations to improve daily tasks while reducing costs. We have worked closely with other departments, providing technical support, training, and guidance on various projects. We are very proud of those achievements, but it's imperative that we continue to focus on the future, ensuring that our service provide modernized solutions and that we position ourselves for a long-term success. So one of the most noteworthy infrastructure modernization initiatives during the upcoming fiscal year will be replacing the on-premise phone system. We aim to deploy a next-generation cloud-based solution that will allow seamless access to the phone service from anywhere. This upgrade will provide robust communication capabilities without requiring any physical hardware on site. Additionally, the system will offer industry-leading uptime of 5 nines, which means 9.999%, which translates to about 5 minutes of potential downtime annually. This transition will enhance reliability and scalability, and as Nick mentioned, will generate a substantial cost savings for the village of upwards of $135,000 a year. We also plan to upgrade our existing on-premise enterprise research planning system through the BSNA platform to a cloud-based solution. The village implemented BSNA in 2015. BSNA is a crucial village-wide data information system impacting everything from purchasing, business license, building permits, payroll, and personal record keeping. This initiative will contribute to a unified database structure, improve systems resilience, and provide comprehensive security protocols. The underlying infrastructure is managed by Microsoft and features energy efficient and highly secure data centers. And the system is scalable for automatic data growth, so hence will reduce the village needs for future server expansion. IT will also play a crucial role in upgrading the EDAC system, which is the document management system. That stores, manages, and tracks all our digital documents, ensuring they are easily accessible, secure, and up to date. So this upgrade will improve document encryption and provide comprehensive document search capabilities, allowing users to locate documents more quickly and easily. One of the things that we're definitely looking at is artificial intelligence, and we expect this will shape the future of municipal technologies. The IT is actively exploring the use of smart chatbots, interactive assistants, basically to retrieve and summarize the data quickly. Additionally, we're evaluating some AI-capable networking equipment that can identify detailed anomalies and optimize configuration, enhancing systems performance and reliability. So by focusing on improving current technology, optimizing the user experience, maintaining security, and being innovative, we allow ourselves to be at the forefront of this constantly ever evolving field. I want to thank you, and this time I'll welcome any questions you may have.
Tomas, I want to lead off by just thanking you and your team, all the work you do for the village. I mean, what I really admire about what you all do is that you look at both the macro and the micro level. So not only do you plan for these large system enhancements, and I remember what the last phone migration was, and it was a big project. So not only do you and your team look at those, but you help everybody within this organization. I mean, just onboarding the new officials, you saw getting your electronics and getting you set up with all the accounts. And they help every single employee. You guys do great work. So thank you.
So I have a couple of questions. First, I was disappointed to not see the IT presentation.
I have. You did it for the IT orientation. I will be more than happy to sit down with you.
I mean, it looked to me that it was gonna be boring, it's just gonna be laptops, and I can't do.
I mean, I can post I can take some pictures of laptops.
But the real question that I have
Yes, sir.
is about Skokie public access. How broad is that? Like, as far as community folks, outside in the village, having like a internet, jumping on having access to the internet, Skokie public gateway. Like, what is that? What's the?
We used to have, do you remember that, John? What was that called?
So that's the INET.
The INET or the.
Oh, and what?
It wasn't located in the downtown Skokie, there were some hotspots and.
Skokie Link.
Skokie Link. Oh, good.
Skokie Link.
You know,
I'm not sure about downtown, but
They were in downtown.
The Village Green was one.
Right.
Market, Lincoln, and Oak.
Mhm.
So what we doing, actually, I can show you something. This is one of the new things that we did.
Here you go. So much, here you go.
That's
It's a brand new Aruba system. You're gonna be all over Village Hall, every municipal building, and we're gonna install them outside. They'll reach past the library, probably halfway between here and then the fire station. So those are professionally graded devices. They have a far reach. So.
And that would allow the public.
There's a Skokie Public
Yeah.
link. It's currently, you can probably look it up on your phone. There's a Skokie Public that you can log in and you can browse the internet without touching the village infrastructure.
We'll have to promote that.
Yeah, and I tell you why I say that, because, and typically nowadays, post-COVID, a lot of students have been given devices in their schools. So being able to leave outside of the school and go to the park and go to a public place and be able to still have access is critical, all the way around. So I appreciate your leadership in expanding access for the community.
Yeah.
In the early days, you and your
One of my ideas back in the day was to put a solar bench where you can sit down, charge your phone. So maybe we can revisit. Sustainable and technology.
Keith, do you have any others? And we'll pivot to Lisa, so.
Thank you so much.
So I would like to just mention something that I mentioned during orientation, which is when we are getting into this AI chatbot and functionality. I would really like to emphasize how important it is to me personally, and I think to many people, to have that chatbot's name be gender neutral. So many of the assistants have these female coded names, which just trains us all that women are there to serve, and it would just be a really nice change of pace if that were just taken away.
I did take a note last time, and we're definitely gonna work with communications, yes. No, we're working together on this.
So there's a plan to have a chatbot on site to help.
So that's what we're evaluating. We wanna, look at some, we did talk with, communications, there's some pieces from Civic Plus, but I think we found something better, so we're gonna test it out, see how it goes, and when the time comes to name it, we'll definitely work together to name it properly.
Thank you. Other municipalities do that, they'll have chatbots, but.
Yeah, Skokie sounds like a great name for a chat.
Skokie.
There's a lot of fuel.
Scope.
So, with the new phone system, is there an opportunity to have an IVR bot as well?
So that's another piece that I'm definitely looking into AI as well. Yes, so IVR is built into the new phone system.
Right.
So any extension we can have, you can pick an IVR, it's probably everybody knows what it means, I hope.
Layman terms.
Phone tree, you can pick or you can talk to it. So yes, there's opportunity to it, and we also looking into potentially, we're gonna test it out, we're gonna see how it goes, but. There's opportunities, let's say if somebody calls after hours, and would you like to talk to Skokie assistant, whatever it's gonna be, and you can ask questions and. The AI will do its best to whatever documents we feed it, it will come back. Would you like to talk to the inspector? Sure, you wanna be transferred to finance? No problem.
Weird question.
Yes.
We talked a little bit about Manal speaking multiple languages, and I know we have the device.
Mhm.
Is there an opportunity for the IVR to translate?
So AI can do it, that's why I was jumping on the seat over there. You can actually say, paste this PDF and it will do it for you. So translate it to such and such language, it will do it for you.
Because I assume most of our residents physically come into the building because nobody's been speaking or my language, they might call in, and yeah, so. Okay.
Anything else for Tomas?
Thank you.
Thank you, Tomas. Okay. Barb Angler, representing the Corporation
Oh,
Council.
boy.
And we're going to back to page 44.
Well, I don't have any swag. So I feel kind of. I was encouraged to do an overview of what our office does. If anybody ever has any questions, just jump right in and ask, and I'll try and address them. First and foremost, our office addresses all the legal issues in the village, and we are the point of contact for multiple lawsuits, for customer complaints. We advise the mayor, the board of trustees, the boards and commissions, village manager and his staff. And we do consultations and calls and walk into someone's offices every day with every department in the village. We will do all the litigation that comes through the door. Whether this is workers' compensation, where we work with the risk manager's office. Any personal injury that comes through, and then through that, we may touch on all departments, whether it be public works or code enforcement, civil rights litigation that comes through. We do all the traffic prosecution in District 2. We will do housing complaints if need arises for a more severe code violation that comes up. We also do our youth call, which has been in progress now since 1998, I think, started by Barbara Meyer.
1998.
And I work with Health and Human Services and PD on that. And we're particularly proud of that, our drug and alcohol issues. There's been quite a litany of issues that have come through that courthouse. Be it code hearings for code violations from building and health. We do the parking hearings, we administer that. The red light hearings, we facilitate and get all the hearing officers. We do the follow-up with the correspondence and the orders after that. We at some point, we'll look at almost every contract or agreement that comes through, whether it's through drafting or reviewing them in collaboration with any and all of the departments. We also will, and every board meeting, when you have an agenda, you have our corporation council report as to what's up there. We will do all the drafting of the ordinances on the resolutions. And especially the ordinances where we work specifically on a lot of cases with community development, with the plan commission cases that come through. And that takes a long time sometimes. Sometimes we get it right and sometimes we have to go back and do it again. We advise the liquor commissioner, as she mentioned before, Avi Funk, who is primarily focused on the liquor code and facilitating that. We will facilitate and manage if there's any type of revocation hearings that come up, or revocation or suspension of license that we've issued, it be it tobacco or occupancy. We will facilitate all that.
FOIAs,
I'm sorry?
FOIAs.
FOIAs, well, we work with the FOIA officer, Jim in our department works with Rolando as a FOIA officer. Very closely on a lot of things. Real estate, land use issues. The building that the Main Street Market is, we just recently purchased that for the village the other few months ago. That's the general overview. There's so many things every day that, like I say, I will get phone calls from staff who has questions. In fact, I got a call from Stephanie the other day and she said, do we have an ordinance on trees? I had to find that, figure that and we have to work and problem solve with all the departments. So sometimes we might get a little information, but we'll have to work to find out what the real issue is. We do a lot of work with people who come in, a lot of residents who have complaints or complaints with their neighbors. Neighbor complaint is a good thing that we have to deal with, and we try to do some kind of negotiation with them. We've done that at times. There's any questions?
I think that's a great overview. And one of the things when I think about just the administrative hearing process, as I recall, and that started before I did, but it was to get, no one likes being cited, no one likes getting citations. But previously, I think they went to court.
So previously, all the tickets were in court, which
We're Cook County Court.
Cook County Courthouse,
Right.
as well as all the parking tickets were up in the Cook County Courthouse too.
Right, so having that moved here.
Which was a
and
big thing.
It's a big thing and it's, you know, again, no one likes being cited or fined, but it gives, I think it's a friendlier process here, as friendly as you can make it.
We
And
tried very hard to work with all the
And we
residents.
work with them, right? I've seen how that happens and the youth outreach program is incredible. I mean, when I was first with the village, I sat through one of those hearings. And there was a young child, but like a middle schooler, who had been caught there smoking. And the judge ordered in the past, they would have just gotten a fine.
Oh, yeah.
And for this program, the child would have been ticketed, there would have been a fine. Mom and dad probably would have paid it or, you know, whatever. In this hearing, the judge, the sentence, if you will, was both the child and the parent were required to attend smoking cessation classes because the parent was also a smoker. So that's and it's been a model program.
It really
for
has.
others.
It really has. And
Yeah.
of course, our focus is not to extract fines from
No.
anybody. It's a deferred prosecution, so we may send them for counseling or drug and alcohol education.
It addresses the issue. They seek, you know, there have to be consequences, but they really seek to address the
We
issue.
work with the schools very closely.
Right. Any questions?
Yeah, where do those hearings take place?
Right
So those
down-
are at second district, the municipal courthouse.
Those take place there. Our administrative hearings take place downstairs in our
Downstairs.
council chambers.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. Yep. Any other questions or comments for Barb? Thank you, Barb. Thanks. Julie. Finance director.
Back. Glad to be. So, I had a 35-minute presentation also, but no, I'm kidding, I did not.
I said 3 to 5.
3 to 5.
I'm real excited about finance, but I want to be respectful of your time, so other than to say, you know, those of you, we did orientation with newly this year, and you learned a little bit about the department, and I think for trustee Pierce Slovan and Robinson, you know our operations year after year, you've heard about our doing, so you know, we're about a 1.3 million budget, 11 full-time staff, 3 part-time, really a service department behind the scenes service. We get to see a lot of folks up front, but you know, we're trying to help. Not a whole lot of change in the budget, mostly contracts and toner costs. That's what's gonna help, really. That's essentially it, contracts for maintenance of printers. So other than that, I'd rather you ask anything you want to know on the finance side as well as the other fund section, which I represent here too.
I just have a quick comment.
Yes.
One of my favorite graphics that you present annually is the dollar bill. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, I wish I could take credit for it. It's actually 3 finance directors ago that it came to be.
That's great. Yeah, I think it really just comprehensively explains, explains where it goes.
I agree.
I appreciate that.
Julian, I'm wondering about your frontline staff at the counter. And how are they, when people come to that counter, they're spending money and they're not always happy about it. So how do we help our staff handle those transactions and that, that human factor? Do they get training?
So most of the training our staff get is typically in person. Usually a more senior staff who has gone through many more years will walk them through, will kind of watch over them as they interact initially. But what we've done in recent years, and by and large, our interactions up front are very positive. A very small minority of our interactions throughout the year tend to be negative. There's, biggest example is someone gets booted for having multiple citations. Those are the toughest interactions we have. And what we've done recently is instructed staff to tap out. So if they're getting in a situation where it's getting heated, the person is, angry, not just shy of abusive, but they're getting very angry and staff is getting hot. We will tap in another staff member, and if there's a supervisor, then they'll walk in, and then I'll walk in eventually and ease out the situation if need be. But it's really in person, and we've never had an issue to where we have felt like, we really need to send you somewhere because you're not handling this well enough. I think because we've had some continuity and seniority, we've been able to train.
Yeah, and I know your staff are dedicated and they do their best. I just know it's stressful, but I'm pleased to know that you have that tapping out process,
Absolutely.
that they feel comfortable doing that and they know that that's an option.
I only employ maybe once or twice.
Yes. Any questions for Julian? Just come up, Monty and then Jill. Oh, go ahead.
Your dollar.
We have a couple of people that belong to that frozen list, the 39 positions, but I wouldn't say I'm down at this point. So as I mentioned during our orientation, we've been able to restructure the way we do things to way, we're operating just fine.
All right.
This point.
Monty, did you have a question?
I don't know if this is a question specifically for you or you and Jack. Is there a magic number or a range that we're trying to attain? I know you showed some numbers earlier and, you know, with our fishing or whatever you call it. Is there something that we're trying to strive for this fiscal year? So that we're in good ways going into the next.
So I would say,
Well, the issue as I see it is we have to address this structural imbalance. Where at some point soon, we're okay for the very near term future, but then we're not. And we have to address that, because again, we can't, in 2 years, we will not be able to fund, that pie chart that shows between the employee costs and the health insurance increase. We're not gonna even be able to fund that, so we're gonna have to take a look at ways. Julian, is that?
yeah, absolutely. So I would say imminently, the budget as proposed is balanced. But it does make some assumptions, as we talked about the local grocery tax, for example. We are presenting that as a necessary step this year, and we're including revenue to that effect in the budget. Over the long term, coming up with a revenue solution that at minimum covers what we anticipate to be annual increases. So if 1.7 is our personnel and 500,000 is our health insurance, those are bare minimum numbers we would have to cover annually in order to not dip below that reserve level. That's not what we're saying is the solution we're trying to achieve today, but that, as the mayor mentioned, is our, forward-looking exercise. That's what we're trying to get eventually.
Yeah.
That is not necessarily the number, but at bare minimum, what we annually expect in increases, we would expect to cover by regular revenue sources, which we do not have today.
Nick?
I just want to add to it, any new or enhanced services that we may want, or the village board may want to do, would require new revenue to support that. We just don't have the revenue structure to support long-term our operations as it is.
And that, to me, that takes me back to the strategic planning process. Because we're gonna hear from the community what the priorities are. And then it's incumbent on us to look at the village's finances. We know there's a structural imbalance coming soon. Where we won't even be able to afford, to meet our minimum expenses, much less the aspirations that we expect will come out of that process. So that's what we have to be mindful of.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't know why, but it takes me back to like the backyard chickens. And when she was talking about, oh, well, listen, they hire a person, this, and they go around and inspect the coops, and I'm like, who's gonna pay for that? You have to have money to pay for that person if you want these backyard chickens, so yes, I couldn't appreciate that.
Well, but I think that is such a great point, because, different communities have different values, and our neighbors to the east, if they're funding that, that's something that is important to them. What we talked about tonight when Deborah was here was the need for more outreach to diversify our workforce. That's a value that, even absent having gone through the strategic plan, we've identified that. That's where we would want to invest in another position. So, anything extra, we've got to figure out funding for it. And that's a challenge that we're going to face together. And we're going to hear from the community first before we start having to take a look at where we go from here with funding. Any other questions for Julian or the team? Any public comment? We had, there were 2 folks here, but they left after Julian's fabulous presentation. But they were complimented. I don't know if you saw, but as they left, they were kind of giving an applause to staff. So good job. Why don't we take maybe a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and go into closed session. We need a motion?
Go into closed session.
Okay, so we'll need a motion to read my script here, and then we will take a break. I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn to closed session for the purpose of discussing wage and benefits pursuant to 2C1 and 2 respectively of the Open Meetings Act. Under the motion, when we adjourn the closed session, this public meeting will automatically and immediately adjourn. Will someone kindly so move?
So
Moved by Keith, seconded by Lissa. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Robinson,
Yes.
trustee Iverson,
Yes.
trustee Levy,
Yes.
trustee Pierce Logan,
Yes.
trustee Schechter is absent, trustee Kay Levy.
Yes.
The motion passes. 5-minute break. It is 9:21, so at 9:26, we will reconvene. Did you have a comment, President Mayor?